Hi, everybody. Welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast, episode 21. I am your host, and with me, as always, is my teenage son, Jackson. Say hello, Jack.
Hi, I have Dean Ambrose side plates.
Yes, you did bring your Dean Ambrose side plates into the studio today.
For no reason.
For no reason other than you wanted to.
Yes.
Another shout out to Coots in the opening, for that fantastic Christmas gift.
Yes.
A couple years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is when I was figuring it out, I searched The Rock's basic 107 figure just to clarify something, and then as I was scrolling through the images, one of them's Rock 107, I think, or a radio station.
Yes.
So that's kind of funny.
That we listen to sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome back, everybody, or if you're a first-time listener, welcome. We just wanted to quickly remind people of our War Games bonus episode that we published on, what was that, Monday?
We did do that, yes.
Monday night, I guess it was. So we won't be covering that here. If you're interested in our thoughts on what we thought was a really good pay-per-view, you can go and check that out. We'd appreciate it.
I mean, it was no full gear, but
and as always,
what is?
I'm going to try and start the show by asking for any sort of feedback from listeners. If you would like to contact us, you can contact us at fnswrestling@gmail.com and fns_wrestling_podcast on Instagram. So you can feel free to ask any questions, make any comments. You'll almost guaranteed to be mentioned on the next podcast we do. We'd love to hear from anyone out there. So, our area, we just found out yesterday, we're going back into lockdown on Monday, buddy? Good times. Gotta love 2020.
Yeah, and just as after Christmas, I'll have money probably. And
oh my goodness, that's really what you're worried about?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness,
and
wow.
I'm going to miss Walmart.
Yeah, that's not the right attitude to have. So yes, basically all retail stuff will be closed other than curbside pickup.
And Walmart, because it's a grocery store.
No more haircuts, no more anything like that.
Yes, no haircuts. So, I win.
And related to this, we both got COVID tested this week, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just
I spit in a tube.
He did. Our community did. Holy cow. You're interrupting McGee already. Our community did a asymptomatic screening testing, like voluntary if you wanted to go. So we did that. You got your, despite you doing the saliva test and me doing the nostril test and them telling us that my results would be in faster because I did that, yours were in faster. So both tested negative, obviously, because there's very few people that are going out into the world less than we are, right? Other than going to school, basically, we pretty much stick to our house. Good times. But so, yeah, we're back into lockdown as of Monday. So
yep, watched Home Alone 2 yesterday.
I was just going to say our holiday movie update. We are done to Home Alones. Homes Alone. Home Alones? Homes Alone?
And I read the description for Home Alone 4. It's in a mansion with techno gadgets. And, yes, that is what Home Alone is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's for the new generation, right?
Right. I'm probably going to try to watch the Home Alones many more times just because I said I was going to do that for
And tonight the plan is my Christmas movie choice, which is Christmas Vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're checking that one out tonight, so that should be good. Mandalorian again last night was solid. We watched it after we finally finished NXT. It was another good episode. I don't think we're ever going to say it was bad, right? I'm pretty sure.
No, it wasn't like what I was expecting, because I was expecting the conclusion to the previous week's cliffhanger, but there's...
You just piled another one on top.
Yeah, but it actually did make sense, so...
It did. It was a good show. Always a enjoyable watch for us.
Yeah.
Well, one more week of school, right?
Yes.
How's school so far?
It happened.
It did happen. Did you do your narrative thing, whatever you were talking about last week?
Yeah.
How was it? Amazing?
Sure.
Changed lives?
Sure.
Inspired thousands?
If you say so.
Good job. So there's a slight possibility of them extending the break and making it sort of virtual schooling.
That would be ideal. Oh, no.
Yeah, that wouldn't be just nothing this time. It would be
No, I'd just like it to be schoolwork, but not virtual things.
Yes, Jack's dream is they just assign him work. He's lucky to be a very good independent learner. So his favorite was in the spring when they just assigned work and said, get it done without any sort of...
I did one or two things each day, and I was fine.
Yeah, and then you were kept caught up for the week. It was a really good system we figured out. So I don't think it'll be that if we go back to online.
Sucks.
It'll be scheduled meets and things. But anyways, that's way off in the distance. So right now, I think we should transition into talking some wrestling. What do you think?
Sure.
It's much more uplifting than talking about...
That is probably what we should do on our wrestling podcast.
Better than talking about the world in general right now, right?
Probably, yeah.
So let's get into a little bit of our escape from reality, which is wrestling for us. So let's start off, as always, with news and rumors, right? So...
And you do your thingy.
I always lead off with the ratings for this week. So this was a really big week for AEW Dynamite. They crushed NXT this week. So Wednesday's live episode of Dynamite drew 995,000 viewers, which is up 9% from last week, while NXT drew 659,000 viewers, up just 0.15%, so less than 1% even, which means AEW won this week by 50. Well, they had 51% more viewers, however you want to take that. AEW drew a 0.45 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, which was up 7%, while NXT drew a 0.17, which was up 6.3%. So Dynamite topped NXT by 165% in that demo, which is the widest margin of victory in the history of the Wednesday Night Wars in the key demographic. So obviously a huge week. People were clearly checking out AEW the week after all of the exciting things happened, I guess you would say, right? So
yeah,
clearly their plan of...
Not to spoil too much, but neither show was overly thrilling.
No, it wasn't. But clearly the idea of Sting on the show and Omega taking the belt elsewhere
and
was...
Shaq.
Yes, because we talked about... I guess we can tie that in here. I don't think I had it in news. But what did I say? It was the highest rated segment on a very high rated show. So... for those of us not looking forward to that storyline, that's not a great sign because it was the highest. It was over 1 million for his segment. So we'll see if that continues. The other thing I saw there was what the surprise in the ratings that held really steady was the Layla Hirsch Brittany Baker match scored really well. So that's kind of...
that was last week though, right?
As interesting. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but still.
It outperformed what they thought, which is interesting because the women's division is not the best thing going in that company for sure, but clearly people are still watching it, so that's good.
That's good.
Anyways, what do you have?
Let's see. One of the more interesting ones was Vince McMahon sending a bunch of big men back to the PC for more training. List of names include some that you would probably expect, like Otis and Dio Madden, aka
for sure, I
Mace. Dabo Kato, who was a Raw Underground mainstay, and then almost AJ Styles, tall
Makes
bodyguard,
sense.
and then Keith Lee.
Right. So I was telling you, I think that's
confused.
ridiculous. This guy is amazing, and there has been a lot of
I think a lot of people know that.
A lot of backlash to this, but then I did, and this is what I told you, I had something to tack on to one of your news items. I saw a Shane Helms tweet. This might fit more into rumors and speculation, but they're interpreting this tweet as sort of a shot at Keith Lee. So what he said, did you see this?
No, I didn't.
So what he said is players that make it to the NBA, NFL, NHL, etc. don't stop practicing and drilling just because they made it to the top. Being signed to a major promotion doesn't mean stop trying to perfect your craft. That's when you work even harder to perfect your craft. So it sounds like he's kind of saying maybe not just Lee, maybe more, but they got to the main roster and then they just sort of didn't keep trying to improve, right? They figured I'm at the top of the wrestling game. I'm just going to slip it into neutral and coast now. Whereas Helms is saying you've got to keep working and keep trying to improve. So people are sort of trying to interpret that as he's sort of taking a shot at maybe Lee and maybe some others as well.
Interesting.
But only Lee surprises me on that list. The other ones definitely can use some more seasoning, right?
Almost we've never even seen wrestle, so...
But I think Lee's ready to be a star, and I don't know. If it's a motivation or an effort thing, fine, and hopefully this sends the message to him, but I don't think he needs to really work on anything other than maybe bringing it 100% every time and everything, I guess. Anything else you got, sir?
NXT India set to launch next year.
I was going to take that one too, but I didn't write it down, so I'm glad you did. Yeah, they're going to have a show based in India, I guess, which I'm interested in.
I don't think it's necessary because I don't know a lot of Indian WWE talent, and also
they're trying to cultivate some.
Yeah, it's probably a popular market, but like again, they're probably just gonna curb a bunch of indie places that like they did in the UK.
It is one of the areas they want to get because the population is so huge.
How else would you explain the Jinder Mahal experiment?
So back in the day, I think I've shown you a little bit of it, but this is the depths of my nerdery, right? I watched Ring Ka King, which I'm kind of hoping this will be something, because that was a really fun show, even though I didn't understand any of the commentary or anything. I watched every week and I quite enjoyed it. So you can go back and check that. We could review that at some point. Maybe it was interesting. There was a tag team that were cats and they literally like behaved like cats and stuff.
That is ridiculous.
I forget the name of the team. Oh, it was interesting. If you're in the right sort of mindset for it, it was silly and ridiculous, but it was kind of fun, to be honest. Another one I have is that, so the rumors we had heard that this Kenny Omega was being a one-off is not true. Apparently he will be back on the December 15th episode of Impact. So yeah, it is more than just a one episode sort of thank you.
I don't think this is going to be a working relationship though. Well, to be fair, Don Callis also appeared at the pay-per-view, so maybe that's why he's coming
remember,
back.
I guess maybe you weren't watching it, but they were talking about Lex Luger moment, a Lex Luger moment in the promo. So what that probably means is something like the Good Brothers, because remember Lex Luger showed up on both shows in the same week and it like blew up the wrestling world sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the idea, I guess, would be that the Good Brothers maybe show up on both shows this week or something like that.
Huh.
So I don't know. We'll see. It sounds like there might be.
Why would it be the Good Brothers?
Because they have a relationship with all of the elite, I guess. Right? They're buddies, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So anyways, anything else you have?
Zeus passes away. He was starring in the No Holds Barred movie. Had that weird tag match thing at the SummerSlam.
Yes. That movie was so hyped up when I was young. I don't know what year it was in, but I was a younger
89 maybe, I want to say.
All right, so 12-year-old me was pretty excited for that, right? Like that'd be like you getting a movie that's actually dealing with wrestling people, and they also like were going to work the storyline into wrestling, right? Which was but long story short, the movie was quite disappointing. I was not a big fan.
Yeah, 89.
And but Zeus, the funny thing is, Tiny Lister, right, was his name? Is his name? He was in a very famous movie from when I was a teenager that maybe someday you'll get to watch. So that's kind of where I am most fond of him from, the movie called Friday. But anyways, so that's too bad. That's a young man. 62 is not old for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing I have is that Bandito, Kenny King, EC3, and Flamita will not be working the final battle pay-per-view.
I heard EC3 was on his way out.
That's
already.
Due to COVID-19 protocols in conjunction, because they're based out of Maryland. State Athletic Commission is dealing with them, right? So they are they won't be on the show, so they're going to have to quickly adjust that card, right? Because it's coming up fairly soon. Anyways, I'll talk about it. I think I have an update on it in my ROH coverage later. But that's all I have for news. What about you?
AEW did announce a couple of TV specials coming up
yes, they did.
on Dynamite, but I thought I'd just cover it now.
Sure.
Our first one that we'll be getting is Holiday Bash, AEW Holiday Bash on December 23rd. So that'll be dope. And then we got one right the next week, so kind of like when we got Fyter Fest and then Fight for the Fallen,
right,
back to back. We got New Year's Smash. Night 1 will be on December 30th, and Night 2 will be on January 6th. Night 1 does advertise some special guests. Nothing specific, but advertise that there will be some. And then Night 2 has advertised Snoop Dogg as a special guest, which I already hate that.
And I don't mind it. I'm interested to see what he's an interesting guy. The cool thing about AEW, right, is we kind of expect that they'll deliver on whatever these surprise guests and special things. They might actually be interesting.
Right, and their TV specials are usually consistent. I mean, take Winter's Coming, for example. That was insane.
Yeah, really good. And if WWE were promising the same thing, I would be very skeptical that it would be anything of interest, right?
Right.
So WWE is not, they've got a history of sort of disappointing us, and AEW so far has not, right? They pretty much delivered.
Except for Shaq.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's not delivering for us, but it's delivering clearly what they want it to, right? Like, we're not interested, but whatever average of 1 million people watching it were. So
yeah, and dumb Sting.
It's sometimes things just aren't for you, right? And that's how I always sum things up, right? This isn't for me, but somebody else may have loved it. That's it for news, bud?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's move into our first in-depth coverage of every week's show, and that is our AEW Dynamite review, which is mostly you, so go for it.
Yes. Our opening match is Young Bucks, the tag champs, versus TH2, and I've been listening to TH2's theme like a lot lately.
Another theme you've gotten into, eh?
And it's actually very good.
I feel like that happens more with AEW for you as well.
Yes.
Their themes, like you've got Hangman, you've got Kip Sabian, you've now got TH2. MJFs you like as well, right? Yeah. Interesting. So whoever's doing their themes, which I actually haven't heard anyone talk about, they're doing a good job, Jack says.
Yes. And so no entrance for TH2,
nope.
Naturally.
Of course not.
But
they've
TH2,
got a chance, right?
Yes. TH2 attack the Bucks during their entrance. Bucks suplex Evans onto Angelico. I once saw Angelico spelled with a J instead of a G, so that's okay. Weird, but
the listeners can't see your notes.
No, I didn't spell it like that. I just seen it like somewhere it's spelled like that. I'm just like, I don't think that's right.
I don't know.
But anyways, Bucks miss a slingshot tandem plancha to the outside, but they land on the apron, and TH2 trip them and take control. Double spears by the Bucks. Wrecking ball drop kick by Matt. Spaceman plancha by Nick. That kind of Fosbury flop move over the top rope.
Right.
Matt Jackson, Jack Evans are now legal. Nick Jackson tags in, double hip toss, the drop kick thingy by the Bucks.
Classic Nick Jackson hot tag a little bit, right?
Angelico tags in Escalera, flipping arm drag by Nick. That's where he kind of like runs up the corner and then does a thingy.
Wow, I did not know that was the technical name.
I didn't know that either, but thank you, Excalibur.
Right? Excalibur helping us out every week.
Matt Jackson tags in again. Bucks take out Jack Evans. Evans tags in and jumps off Angelico to moonsault on Nick.
That was pretty cool.
Then we get a foot stomp back suplex by TH2 and that assisted standing 450 splash for a 2 count. Nick super kicks Evans, and Angelico hits a roundhouse on Nick, and Angelico then eats a super kick from Matt, and everyone is down briefly.
Yes.
A strike combo ends with the clothesline bulldog by Nick, so there's that classic Nick Jackson offense.
Always looks nice, yeah.
Yeah, and then the slingshot X Factor back into the ring for 2. Matt sunset flip power bombs Evans into the crowd onto the Acclaimed. Obviously, they were involved in that segment last week, so
yeah,
there's that. Matt tags in, frog splash, standing moonsault for 2 by the Bucks. I wanted to say it was a frog splash by Nick, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
and then
not quite, maybe.
Matt Jackson just moonsaults the guy's legs. So.
Yes, moonsault to the lower body.
Right, but whatever, looks cool, I guess.
It still hurt, maybe, I guess, I don't know.
Evans tags in, combo by TH2 that ends in a springboard 450 for a 2 count. And Angelico attempts a crucifix bomb, but Matt Hurricane rolls him into the corner into the Domagiri by Nick, which was pretty cool.
It was.
Doomsday device to Evans on the stage by Bucks, which is cool.
Yep.
Double super kick to Angelico for a near fall. The death roll submission thingy by Angelico then goes on Matt Jackson.
And there was a poison Rana by Evans right before that and a 450.
And Jack Evans is on lookout. Nick avoids a dive by Evans and then he breaks the submission. Bucks catch a dive by Evans on the outside and hit the Meltzer driver, which looked kind of cool. And then a double super kick to Angelico and a BTE trigger gets the win for the Young Bucks. And then SCU are able to prevent a sneak attack attempt from the Acclaimed.
Right, so that's kind of getting them introduced to each other, I guess.
So I just wrote it's a good opener, but TH2 were never going to win. They got some cool offense in, and the Bucks got a decent win. Both teams are talented, and this match wasn't super disappointing, and it was a pretty good opener.
Yep.
I don't mind the Acclaimed getting involved in this because this will give them a good rub, but I really don't understand SCU here, but either it's a feud to get the Acclaimed
I think so.
over, or SCU are going to challenge the Bucks for the title, and I'd like the former more than the latter.
I think it's probably SCU is like the gatekeeper to the tag division,
yeah, the Cassius Ohno.
Which is actually a pretty good spot for them, I think. But yeah, you're right. It could
all in all, it's good.
Yeah, I thought it was a good opener as well. Early on, I don't know, it was weird. I don't know if I just noticed things differently, but I thought some of the Bucks' kicks and strikes looked really weak at the beginning for some reason. But then the action I thought picked up. In the end, it was a fun opener, despite, as you said, right, the result was never in doubt. I kind of had like this was like empty calories, like eating a bag of chips, right? Yeah. Like you enjoy it, but you're not getting anything.
I remember in the early stages of AEW, Kip Sabian teamed with TH2 once. That'd be a cool trios champ thing.
So yeah, this match was a good opener. I preferred it to what opened NXT. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, carry on.
Mm-hmm. Next again, MJF promo. I didn't get much from this, but I just got the gist of it was he's going to retain his ring. I was just like, told you he's retaining it.
And he talks about the marks online, right? He's going to disappoint all the marks tonight when he retains the ring because he's better than Cassidy, and Cassidy knows it. There really wasn't much to it.
Mm-hmm. Just not that it was bad. It's just like your usual
brief,
MJF
quick to the point,
spiel.
away we go.
Darby Allin vignette, that image word association thing that therapists do.
The ink blot test, Rorschach test, I think it's called. Yeah.
He says Cage has tried to end Darby since Cage debuted after he's shown a picture of Cage. And Darby challenges Cage to a match for the TNT title. And then he snickers at a Sting photo. He just like kind of...
Yeah, the last ink blot resembled Sting and he laughs. This was my least favorite Darby Allin vignette and the first one that I really didn't care for because this was not him in his natural habitat, right? And doing what he normally does. This was him in like a contrived setting, reading or reciting scripted lines, and I wasn't really a big fan of it. And again, I'm not super into the Sting stuff, and I don't think you are either. So that probably, because that's supposed to be the big thing. So I didn't enjoy that, and I didn't find there was more of this stuff later as well that I didn't find super cute.
Next we have Cody, your favorite. Yay.
Yes, everybody's favorite.
And
except
then
for
it
me.
gets better, 'cause Sting interrupts.
Right?
Yay.
We are the most negative Sting podcast I've heard, by
Yes.
the way. Sorry, Sting.
Arn leaves
I'm sure
the
you
ring because he's disgusted by Sting, probably.
And I pointed out to you that they're the same age, right? Sting and
Yeah.
Arn Anderson, and they
Sting looks 1,000 times
look
better.
quite different, yeah.
Yeah. Tony hands the mic to Sting. Sting hugs Tony, says it's been a long time. Thanks, Tony, for helping him throughout his career, and then asks Tony to do the thing where he's like, "It's Sting!"
Pandering
And then
nonsense.
I wrote, "It's lame."
I had pandering nonsense.
Yes, that is pandering nonsense. And then he says it, and the crowd's like, "Yay!"
Yep.
And then
of
Cody
course.
says, "Welcome back, dude." And then he's like, he's been waiting to share a ring for Sting with Sting for a long time. And Sting said he's not here for Cody right now, and everyone's just like, "Ooh."
Yeah, that was actually a cool second there.
Yeah,
Because Cody's trying to make it like equally about him almost, right? As every babyface does, try and steal the spotlight from
Right.
Sting. And Sting's kind of like,
Shut
this
up.
isn't about you right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Sting says that with him, nothing is for sure, except that he signed with AEW for a long time. And I'm just like, that is the most WWE line of all time.
Apparently he's going to wrestle.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know.
And then he says, "See you around, kid." And I wrote BORING. Holy crap.
Yeah,
This
I
was
have.
lame.
I wish I cared about this because people seem like they're having fun with it and just getting caught up in the madness of having Sting. But I just
wrote like,
I'm just not interested. But
yeah,
I said
me neither.
the silver lining here is this wasn't very long and they could have made it longer. So I guess it's
so.
fine.
I just wrote a boring Cody promo combined with old man Sting. No thanks. Stop, please. And Sting is signed for a while, so that kind of sucks for me.
He's gonna wrestle. I'm hoping it's nothing more than like 6-man, 8-man tag matches because he can't be wrestling a singles match.
Yeah, like he literally was injured in 2015.
Well, he has spinal stenosis, right? That ends careers.
Wasn't that what happened at Night of Champions?
Yes. So he should not be taking any sort of physicality.
He's
basically.
probably gonna have a match like I remember when Bret Hart came back to WWE and he had like that non-match with Vince McMahon.
Right.
And he like basically did nothing.
Did nothing.
Somehow won the U.S. title.
So I don't
feel
want
like
him to
like
hurt
that.
himself. I don't want his career to end in AEW.
I don't think there's any purpose for him here.
Well, there's no purpose for us, but they're getting eyes on the product.
I think he could be a decent backstage producer, but like I don't think he needs to be wrestling. I don't think he needs to be talking. Other than like name recognition, he really doesn't bring anything here. It's not like Chris Jericho being the first world champion, where like Jericho still had stuff to offer. He was still decent in the ring and he was still a great character, but Sting really doesn't have much to offer.
Well, this was a decent promo. I just don't really care, right? Like it's not like it was bad.
This is like a lot of like you said, pandering nonsense.
Yeah, but again, there's people talking about wrestling that haven't talked about wrestling forever, right? People on other things I listen to are saying like they're in the wrestling industry and they're getting texts from people who haven't paid attention to wrestling saying, "I hear Sting's back."
That's literally like the only good thing here.
That is the value he brings.
That's the only value here.
Yep. Well, we could talk about that all day. Let's move on.
We're
not a fan of Sting returning people.
I want him to leave now.
Right.
Taz talks about the beatdown by Team Taz last week and how Tony Khan had to sign Sting to protect his Golden Boys, which I thought was actually kind of funny.
Yep.
And then Stark says now Hook is training with Team Taz, and then Cage does his thing where he's like, "Who better?" And this was fine.
I said this was nothing really. The only thing is
I literally only like the first line.
It's more Sting gravity, right? Like he's seeping into multiple storylines and things, which I'm not a huge fan of.
But let me just say, I really want to see Cage versus Darby Allin.
Yep, that would be very interesting. And anytime
so
Taz
cool.
speaks, right, it's not bad. So
just give him better things to talk about.
Yes, exactly.
Next we have FTR versus the world's greatest tag team.
Right.
Not Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas, but the Varsity Blondes, Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison.
Yep.
Of course, I am being incredibly sarcastic here. I can't stand them.
These are dark competitors, obviously getting a shot here.
Even then, I think they usually lose on dark. They've only been winning as of late to quote-unquote build them up.
Well, they definitely have a chance, just like TH2 did in the opener.
Of course.
Right?
Because when you don't have an entrance, that's because they want to cut to chase to that squash victory.
Well, you're so good in the ring, they don't want to take up any time by giving you an entrance, right?
Yeah, and
it's like when Seinfeld shortened their introduction down because they needed to pack more humor into the show.
Right, they need to pack more dominance.
That's right.
Right.
Tell me about their dominance.
All right, I will. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Cash versus Pillman to start, and let me just say, I think Cash Wheeler's pretty screwed right here.
I thought he looked really like fast and aggressive to
Yeah.
start. Honestly, he's been impressing me a ton lately in FTR matches.
It's surprising he was able to get so much offense on someone like Brian Pillman Jr. I mean,
first time ever.
I know he's making history right here.
He is.
He's got to be more aggressive and faster, if anything.
Well, yeah,
right?
he knows his opponents are like top notch, right? This isn't the Young Bucks they're facing, right? That's easy.
I'm surprised they don't have more world tag team title runs than like Ric Flair.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
They might.
They're getting there. Then Dax Harwood does tag in. The snap suplex. Cash is back in. Crossbody by Pillman to FTRC. He's taking control just like that.
Yeah, I thought the FTR looked really angry in a lot of their offense, right? Which I liked because it's like they're annoyed that they lost the belts and that's all they should really care about. So they looked super angry tonight.
Drop kicks by Pillman. Garrison tags in. Pillman's back in. As you can see, there was so much interesting offense here.
Yeah, it was.
That's why I covered it.
Yep.
I didn't, because it wasn't interesting. Combo by Varsity Blondes for 2. Surprised they didn't win, if I'm being honest. Dax tags in. Cash tags in post-commercial break. No picture-in-picture, of course.
Nope.
Springboard shoulder block by Pillman. I thought this looked really weird because I was expecting a clothesline or something a little more effective.
Yeah, it was. I have it as an awkward diving clothesline. It was one of those like.
But apparently it was a shoulder block.
You didn't cover the ground you thought you were going to cover, sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Garrison tags in. A combo by Garrison. Capped off by a double spear for a 2 count. Dax tags in. Brainbuster by Dax.
Nice.
Cash is in. And the smash contraption for the win. It was okay, but Varsity Blondes had too much offense. And I'm very surprised they did not win.
I'm glad they used the smash contraption, as we call it, for the win. Yeah, FTR dominated the beginning and the end, and then I thought they gave a lot to the Varsity Blondes in the middle. I thought Garrison looked okay. The hot tag, quote-unquote hot tag he got, looked pretty good, actually. So they looked all right. Normally, I'm not a fan of...
Yeah, on a serious note, I don't think these guys need to be on Dynamite too much.
Not yet, but I mean, this is them developing people, right? Like, give them a quick match.
I think they really need to develop Pillman Jr. more, because I think he's got that name recognition, I think, and... I think it'd be cool to have like a second generation talent like that on their roster.
Oh, for sure it would. And sometimes I find him almost bad, and he wasn't here, right? So maybe he's getting better as well. So I didn't think this was bad, but this was another match where there was only one possible outcome containing half dark wrestlers, right? Basically.
Right. I think if Pillman stays on dark for a while and just hones his craft, I think they can turn him into a decent mid-carder even, and I think that'd be really good because second generation stars are always pretty cool, and especially one that of someone who used to be popular, like Brian Pillman.
He was a huge deal
right.
Near
so
the end of his
this
career.
Would be, I think, this could also possibly bring some people back, similar to what Sting's doing, because like. Think about it, if you're a fan who was like watching like WCW and then like maybe even early Attitude Era, and you see that this guy Brian Pillman Jr. is doing really well, you're like, oh, I remember Brian Pillman. This must be his kid. I'll check it out, right? So I think if they do something good with him, I think that could be beneficial. Griff Garrison, I really don't see a ton for him.
The commentary team kept saying, right, if he packs on some muscle, because he's a lanky kid right now, he doesn't look bad.
That's not even a bad statement to make, because he is pretty skinny for a big man. So if he put on some weight, again, he could do something.
But their roster's full, right? Especially the tag team division.
Now.
So... Again, they can, no offense to them, they can go back to dark and keep working and getting better.
No, yeah, and then I think that's all honestly going to be better for them.
Yep,
so.
Me too.
Get a quick Hangman Page interview. He's going to face Matt Hardy and Private Party next week in 6-man tag. He says Hardy Party, which I think is kind of a cool name.
Nice.
And then
you would.
I just think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Silva and Reynolds ask to be partners. Hangman reluctantly agrees after they're like, well, who else are you going to get?
Right. He declines, and then they're kind of like, nobody else is going to do it, which, again, is cool. It ties into this. Remember, Paige has sort of like confidence issues or whatever, self-esteem issues.
He's like, okay.
So it's sort of like them using that, which is clever, and then him recognizing, going, oh yeah, nobody does want to be my friend, right? So what choice do I have? So I kind of
but he says it's only a one-off, and he's not going to join Dark Order.
Right. So it's a tiny thing, but I thought it was kind of cool.
I thought this
was
a really good segment. They were like all wearing cowboy hats, and they were like hiding behind the bar.
Right.
Which I thought was kind of funny, just like stereotypical cowboy
Dark Order
stuff.
Walks the line of like comedy and serious, right? They're able to sort of take one step either direction when it suits them, and they're doing a really good job, because when they started out, Remember, because we love Evil Uno and Grayson.
Yeah, and they were a great tag team.
And then at the beginning of AEW, we're like, ugh, this Dark Order thing is not great.
And then they brought in Brody Lee, and it's just like, boom.
They sort of reworked it, even though he's mysteriously gone. I don't know.
I know, that really sucks, because I thought he was on a roll with the TNT title, and then they just took it back off him.
There must be some reason he's gone. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be a reason.
Better be something good, because I'm really disappointed he's not here, because he was doing really good.
He was. So I did like this little segment. Yeah, as short as it was, I thought there was a couple cool things furthered in that couple minutes.
We got Dustin Rhodes versus Preston Vance, aka 10 of the Dark Order.
Oh boy, 5-star special here.
Yep. Rhodes is accompanied by Lee Johnson. I think we both kind of chuckled when we saw this.
So I asked the question at the beginning of this match, and you can sense it's starting to irritate me. So every match tonight will involve at least one Dark regular. Right. So far, every match has half of the competition is a regular on their Dark
Even like
program.
A team like TH2 is really talented are, no offense, primarily Dark competitors.
Yep.
Which kind of sucks.
And yes, I also have my next note, as you said, right? Lee Johnson accompanies Rhodes. What star power tonight? Star power.
Right?
Yes.
Holds and counters. Spinebuster by 10. In the past, he's hit some good ones. This one was fine.
This is not his strongest effort. Usually,
but one of his spinebusters was like really good. I think it was in like a 6-man tag.
Yeah.
I was just like, damn. Pump kick sends Rhodes to the outside. Someone from the crowd tries to grab 10, but eats a pump kick, which was confusing.
Aaron Solo. Can you believe I caught that detail? He's wrestled before, for sure on Dark, maybe even on the Dynamite once.
And then a weird-looking bulldog by Rhodes for the win. And I'm just like, what the hell?
Me too. I have bulldog for 3? Question mark?
Yeah.
Like, what?
And then Evil Uno and Dark Order come out. Uno says he's not here to fight. Uno says you can't change their past, but you can change their future. And Uno says Dustin is the third most important Rhodes in AEW.
That was kind of funny.
And then another funny tidbit, he offers the 7 spot in Dark Order to Rhodes.
Right, which was one of his identities, right?
In WCW. And Rhodes slaps Uno, but Uno tells Dark Order to back off. And Uno says Rhodes will come begging when he understands. And I just wrote, this was lame as hell. The match had the most anticlimactic finish I've seen in like a while. A bulldog is the ending move. Are you kidding me? It wasn't even like a good bulldog either. It was fine.
Yes.
And this was just to set up an attempted Dark Order recruitment. But couldn't 10 at least have taken like the Destroyer or like the Final Cut or whatever?
Since when does Dark Order recruit people that are winning and successful? That was one of my questions, right?
And like someone who's old. Why would they recruit like a future talent? Like Anna Jay made sense to me because she was losing and she was like, she had potential, right?
Like their whole thing is we take you from being a loser and build you up. Not, hey, you just won a match against one of our people.
You want to join us?
So I agree. This segment and match were not great. The match
What the hell was this match?
My other issue was the commentary team at the beginning were really pumping up 10, and I thought, okay, they're setting this guy up to have a good showing at least. Like I assume he's going to lose.
The opposite.
But he looked worse than usual. It was nothing, and it made 10 look weak, losing to a bulldog.
I know, and I think he has potential. He looks he has a good physique, and I don't know. I just like his look, and I think he has potential. And this really just destroyed him.
No, he looked weak taking a bulldog after a few minutes against a 50-whatever-year-old man.
Yeah.
And the angle that followed wasn't good enough to justify the match.
I just wrote, this was dumb, and why would Dark Order be interested in an old and aging wrestler who won, which is not who they're after, when AEW is full of these young, talented wrestlers, right? Like.
Yeah, I didn't understand this. The commentary team looked kind of silly, making 10 sound like he was amazing, and then he just quickly loses to a bulldog. So I was confused and not impressed.
Well, next segment's not going to get much better.
Hey, this was the top segment on the week, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think I had much competition, though.
It just means people were watching it. It doesn't mean they thought it was awesome, technically.
True.
Right?
Brandy Rhodes is also here. Shaq talks about how much he loves Jade, will then go marry her. Shaq says he didn't appreciate the arm stomp, says he was just messing around on Twitter when he was talking to Cody. Brandy's about to leave. Shaq says Brandy should learn from Jade. She's like, is that a joke? He's like, no. And then she throws water at Shaq.
She does.
I wrote boring. Why is Shaq here? The thing is with Sting, I don't like it, but at least he's like a wrestling legend.
He's been on TNT.
Right. And like he's respected by a lot of people, and like he's at least a wrestler.
Right.
Shaq is not. He's a basketball player, well-respected one, I'll give him that, but he doesn't belong here. And, like,
mainstream attention.
Even you who's a basketball fan, right? I'm sure you wouldn't want LeBron James or, like, Kyle Lowry showing up on Dynamite or NXT, right?
There's virtually no celebrity that interests me in coming on wrestling. But that's
I don't need Shaq in WWE, especially not AEW. Like,
well, again, he's gonna get non-wrestling eyes on the product,
I know, but
this isn't for us. You just have to be like, it's not for us.
Yeah, and like get Shaq and any other dumb celebrities that are here just for publicity and cash grabs, because they don't belong here, and it's boring as hell. It's disgusting to wrestling fans like myself. So get this guy out of here, and don't ever let him back.
Well, I think he's trying to help out, because I think he's friends with Jade in real life, so I think he's trying to help her out, which is fine. But I didn't
this isn't gonna help
I'm
her.
not quite as passionate as you, but I did not like this either. None of the people involved in this are wrestlers. No offense, Brandy and Jade. I don't really want to see them.
I just think this is ruining such a perfect wrestling promotion.
I don't want to see Shaq and AEW. The silver lining, and this is not setting up to be a great show, because I keep saying at least this segment wasn't long. And if that's the best thing I could say, that's not ideal, right?
I just think this is really ruining AEW, which has been such like a near perfect wrestling promotion for me. Like, not to be biased, but it's just been so good in the past year, and this is really just, I don't know, kind of screwing it up for me.
And the fact that Sting and Shaq are coming at the same time, right? You've got two...
It's just beating me over the head with stuff I don't like.
Yep. Fair enough. Inner Circle stuff.
The next segment was actually a breath of fresh air for me. It was actually pretty decent. Inner Circle Ultimatum. There was no Santana. I was confused, but you did discover this, so please explain that quick.
Apparently his stepfather passed away, so he was obviously dealing with that, so that's why he was away.
We send our condolences to Santana.
Absolutely.
I'm sure he's listening to the podcast. But anyways.
You've hugged Santana before, correct?
Oh, yeah. I did do that, yes.
Yep.
At Impact.
Yep, true story.
Jericho claims Santana's so pissed he didn't come, so there's that kind of being covered up, I guess.
Yep. Jericho
talks about all the disagreements within the Inner Circle. MJF is saying he loves all the Inner Circle, but says he might be the issue because he's saying social media is saying that he wants to take over the Inner Circle, and the Inner Circle is starting to believe it. And Sammy's telling MJF to shut up. Jericho says they all saw MJF with the towel, and then Ortiz says they are great talents, but not as human beings. Ortiz says MJF is growing on him like a fungus, which I thought was kind of funny.
I thought Ortiz was good.
He was really good.
And he doesn't usually get to talk much, at least seriously.
Yeah,
right?
And Ortiz tells Sammy to shake MJF's hand, and Ortiz says you can't always choose the hand you're dealt, and if they get along, they are the winning hand, which I thought was a really good line.
Yeah, he did a good job.
And Sammy agrees because he says he trusts Jericho, but Sammy says if one more thing happens, he'll quit the Inner Circle. Then they shake hands, and Hager asks why Wardlow keeps staring at him, and Wardlow says Hager is staring at him. And they argue a bit, and that was kind of funny. And so I actually quite liked the segment. It was pretty good. There were some good lines. I really liked Ortiz coming from being the in-ring kind of comedian guy to being like the voice of reason here, right?
Yeah, I was
Which
surprised
I thought was kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I was impressed as well. And Sammy threatening to quit, I think actually is quite an interesting storyline, so I'd like to see where that goes. And I thought Hager and Wardlow were pretty funny at the end, actually.
And me too, and I'm glad the group is staying together. It just sort of hit me now. This reminds me of like Home Alone or Home Alone 2. They're this giant dysfunctional family where some of them hate each other some of the time or fight a bunch of the time. And I feel like a Sammy is Kevin, right? Like, one more thing and I'm out of this family. Like, I'm going to wish you disappeared sort of thing. So that just sort of dawned on me there. It kind of feels like that. It had its moment. I wouldn't say it was Inner Circle's best segment.
No, but it wasn't bad, especially when you're comparing it to some of the other stuff here.
And it progressed everybody's position a little bit, so it was good, right? Ortiz has changed a little bit because he's more on side. Sammy stood up for himself here and sort of let us know where he stands. The Hosses, Hager and Wardlow, actually acknowledged their issues, so that sort of furthers that.
And I just thought it was funny. They're like, you're staring at me. No, you're staring at me.
And then Jericho has to be like the voice of reason. So it was like the group is evolving but staying together. So it's what I always ask for, right, is for things to sort of change and progress. So I can't really complain too much about this because that's what's happening
and
here.
Given just that really lame match that we were just talking about and the Shaq thing and the Sting thing, this is like probably my highlight I would say.
And I thought this was moving too quickly, so I'm glad they're sort of like, nope, at least for whatever, a week or two, whatever it's going to be, they're still together as a functional, I won't say cohesive, because that's not the case
But
yet.
like still
functional group, right? So
semi-functional, we'll say.
I was not unhappy with this.
No, I quite enjoyed it. So we get an FTR interview after their upset win over the Varsity Blondes.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
We know.
Yes. Cash takes responsibility for the Full Gear loss, but Tully says Cash can't take the blame because Tully wasn't there, so the team was incomplete, and then Dax says they're the best and the best, fear the revelation. I thought Tully's thing was kind of cool because it's like, I wasn't there, so we weren't like a whole team, which I thought was kind of cool just because I feel like that would be good heel logic, even though he's just like their manager, but like he's saying like that they're the whole team, all three of them, right? Which I thought was kind of cool.
FTR, I love them. They're probably my favorite tag team. I thought this was just them like rebooting the whole we want the championships and that's all we're here for, right? Which makes sense because that is exactly their character.
Yeah, and I like Cash, like I like him kind of being the heel, but like he knows he made the mistake because he ditched their mantra for that second where he went for the 450, right?
And so this is sort of the exact same thing they did not long ago, right? Once they started pursuing the belts. But again, this makes sense with their character, so I'm okay with it, and I love FTR.
I think it's even the same thing, before, but it's added a little more with the whole thing that Cash kind of abandoned the mantra of no flips, just fists for a bit, and I think that just kind of adds on to it.
So now they're going to refocus and get back on track.
Right, and it could even lead to them being better, which I think would be cool. Maybe we get our first 2-time tag team champions.
I'd be okay with it.
Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros versus Eddie Kingston, Butcher, and Blade. I think Lucha Bros got no entrance, which was very
interesting.
Sad.
Yeah, I was looking forward to this match.
I like their theme.
You do.
But
another theme to put on your list there.
And Proud and Powerful have a pretty good one.
They do. I like theirs too.
Archer attacks Kingston right away. We get a brawl. Butcher suplexes Penta through a table, and he's taken to the back. This is because I was able to discover that he was injured while training, so this was to write him out of the match.
Yeah, because he was gone, right? So right away, basically.
Yeah, and he's probably my favorite guy in this match, so that sucked.
And then Bunny ran over and screamed in his face right after, which I thought was kind of funny.
That feels like an thing that Alexa Bliss would have done when she was managing Murphy and Blake.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think she just does that. She just seems like, or when she had that heel character, seems like something she would do.
Yep.
Or she did do. Or seems like also Maurice as well.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Maybe even Penelope Ford.
Yeah.
I don't know. Archer versus Kingston start, so it is a handicap match now. It's just Archer and Phoenix. Sorry. Butcher tags in, hits a crossbody on Phoenix, who's now legal. Kingston tags in, body slam and elbow drop by Kingston. Bunny gets a cheap shot on Phoenix, handspring cutter by Phoenix. Archer and Blade tag in. Strike exchange between Archer and Butcher, which is kind of cool. Corner tags to Butcher and Blade by Archer. Archer tags Phoenix post-commercial break. Springboard crossbody to Blade. Escalera arm drag and head scissors to Kingston and Butcher by Phoenix, which is really cool.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, full death by Butcher and Blade for the win.
Right.
Eddie Kingston, Butcher, and Blade win. Lance Archer attacks. Archer destroys all. Butcher saves Blade from a blackout, and they retreat. And I wrote, this match was okay, but had a weird finish like Rhodes versus 10, except this is actually finisher. Before I discovered the injury thing, Penta was taken out early, and I was confused, but obviously I get that now. Phoenix and Archer losing is weird, and where in the hell is Pac?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's really disappointing to me. And this match was okay, but the finish was meh and very anticlimactic once again. And this is a wasted potential of the match because I think given all the talent involved, this could have been really good.
It was the only thing I was really looking forward to.
And
when
disappointed,
they put the card
which I'm disappointed in.
There was one spot too in the middle that I had lots of awkwardness by the heels around like a tag, no tag, like there's I can't remember it specifically, but it looked really awkward for a few seconds. So no Pentagon, a short match with not much happening in it. This was disappointing for me. Again, it was the only thing I was really looking forward to on the card when they were promoting it. And it was underwhelming to say the least. And just in general, to this point, I have not loved this show, and we'll see if it gets any better.
Yeah, it really sucks because I always want to like AEW because they are still a relatively new promotion. So I really do want to like what they're doing because they have, for the better part of a year, have been like the best wrestling on the planet.
Oh, and it's not like I hate it and I'm mad I'm watching it at
all. But it's just like
I always
want to like them because I think they just Their creative compared to WWE is always really good, so I always want to like them, but the show hasn't been super strong.
Agree.
We get a backstage thing. Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose are attacking Red Velvet. Deeb and Swole make the save. Evilise also gets involved, and I just really don't understand.
I almost forgot that entire segment. I have Red Velvet beat down and lots of women push and yell. That was my summary of that.
What is the women's division right now? We got Cheetah versus A.O.W.B, which is confusing, and then Baker and Rose is the only really interesting thing. And what the hell even was this?
I almost blocked it out of my memory. Apparently,
I wish I did.
I just had chaos in the locker room, and then that note I read, and that was it.
Yeah, that's
all the attention
this
it
was
deserves.
A thing. Yep. Yes. Let's move on. Never speak of it again.
Fair enough.
Then we get A.O.W.B versus Tesha Price. That's a interesting name.
New one for me. Yeah, I don't know her.
Yes. Clothesline, corner body blows by A.O.W.B, corner forearms by A.O.W.B after no selling a forearm. And then we get like a widow's peak, you said it was? It's like a gory bomb neck breaker
I like it. It's a cool move.
Yep.
Suits
by A.O.W.B for the win.
Yeah, this doesn't help me determine if A.O.W.B can wrestle or not because it was a complete squash match. But again, she looks really cool. I like that choice of finisher for her. It suits her character, I think.
And she'll be able to hit it on Cheetah.
And as we say every week, she looks amazing. So I don't know if she can actually wrestle or not. I'm still not sure.
Post-match attack, Hikaru Shida comes out the kendo stick and she just headshots A.O.W.B, which looked really cool.
Yep.
And the way she fell just flat on her back, I'm just like, she's going to sit up. And yes, she did.
Of course.
Shida helps Tesha Price to escape.
Like I always say, how great is it to be assigned a gimmick where you get to no-sell stuff? Like, that's fantastic.
Like you're getting hit in the head with a stick.
And you're going to sit up.
Yeah. But, I mean, nice.
Good summry. I'm interested in Shida A.O.W.B. I'm not.
Me too.
I'm not convinced it's going to be good.
Same.
But I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I'm honestly, the highlight of the women's division is Rosa and Baker. Right now.
It is, and they know it.
I think they need to keep doing, like, when Dee was defending against, like, Layla Hirsch, that was, like, at least it provided us with, like, a pretty good match, right? Even if it was a lack of story and it was for a title not even in the company. Like, at least that was something interesting. So I think Dee needs to probably do that again. I think we could have used that on this show.
And I think they kind of know the status of their women's division. It feels like it's kind of like Sheeta's good enough as champion and legit enough, and then we need to just build everything underneath her. So it's kind of like
Baker needs to be the champion, but then they need to give her a different belt.
So I think Sheeta's having this long run while they sort of figure out what's going on beneath her, right, and build somebody.
Yeah,
and it should be Britt Baker, obviously. I think, but we'll see.
I agree, because also Sheeta's a face, so then
that makes
Britt
sense.
Baker will be the one who wins.
Yeah, and Baker Sheeta could be a good match too, right? So.
Then we get an Inner Circle interview, and Jericho says Inner Circle will be ringside for MJF's upcoming match.
Right.
Then we get Kenny Omega and Don Callis arriving via helicopter.
I thought that was super cool.
Kenny Omega gets a mega intro, and I thought this one was really good.
Me too.
Yeah.
I didn't write details. I just have another great intro.
I wrote 4 Broom Girls. No.
Yes.
And then we get an in-ring interview. Tony asks about the gentleman's agreement and what happened. Don says Tony is just like everyone else because everyone is upset. Don says he's been watching Omega's entire career. This is basically a recap of the Impact promo.
Bizarrely, you were telling me that because you had already watched the Impact promo highlights, and
I'm not even saying it was bad.
And I don't watch Impact until after AEW, this week at least, maybe usually.
I'm not even saying this or the Impact one was bad. It's just like it's the same thing.
Very reminiscent for sure.
And I'm betting most people probably watched it Impact live, so most people are probably just watching a promo for the second time.
I think they're just covering themselves for the people that didn't.
Yeah, but I feel like they could have at least maybe done a promo package or like a package showing the Impact thing and then do something else. I think that would have honestly been more effective because at least then that would be like it's literally a recap thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
But whatever. Omega says he didn't immediately beg Tony Khan to bring his family and friends. He bided his time until now. And Omega says he didn't care if anyone bought it except Mox, which I think was cool because it's like, I just needed Mox to believe it so that I could get him.
Yeah, just that person with the belt's the only one that had to fall for it.
Omega says he might have used the mic, but no one would kick out of the One-Winged Angel anyways. Cal says they can't handle the surprise, so they don't tell him. Omega does his outro thing. I wrote, this was good, but basically the same as what they did with Impact the previous night, just with that end bit added on.
Right.
It wasn't bad, just wasn't new.
And I hadn't seen them on Impact yet, so at this point I thought Callis was fantastic here. He's really good in this role. I thought Omega was fine, but didn't say anything super memorable. But overall, yeah, this was a cool little segment.
I honestly thought Omega was better on the Impact one.
He was.
And then Callis
was about the same. I've been really impressed with him. Just like we're adding another awesome talker to a show full of really strong promos,
and I think I honestly like the Impact one better, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Just because I think it was fresh, so that they hadn't done it yet.
Right.
I thought there was just more to it, just more interesting. But this was fine if you didn't see the Impact one, I guess.
I liked it at the time.
But yeah, it was whatever. Next we have our main event, which is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, aka MJF, versus Orange Cassidy for the Dynamite Diamond ring.
Right.
The rest holding like the little pillow with the ring, which was kind of funny instead of holding like a championship.
It's tough to look cool holding a tiny pillow like that with a ring on it, but good for him for trying.
Yeah. MJF attacks a suplex for 1 count, another one for another 1 count. MJF chokes Cassidy with Cassidy's shirt briefly. Cassidy counters her suplex into a Stung Dog Millionaire. I hate the name of that move so much.
You do.
Cassidy misses the orange punch and hits the ring post. MJF stuffs Cassidy's hand in his back pocket and powerbombs him on the apron, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
MJF uses the turnbuckle to damage the fingers of Orange Cassidy, like the bit that connects the turnbuckle to the
that part
ring
is
post.
The actual turnbuckle. It is a buckle that you turn to tighten it. So I thought this was fun because they're wrestling for a ring and MJF is attacking Cassidy's fingers, right? Which is kind of funny.
A flapjack by MJF, back elbow for 2 by MJF. MJF throws Cassidy out of the ring. MJF distracts the ref as the Inner Circle gang up on Cassidy. JR blatantly lies about the picture. And then as we are back from a commercial break, poof! Varsity Blondes and Brandon Cutler and Top Flight are magically at ringside.
Yes, and not in the crowd, leaning on the apron.
Like a lumberjack match.
Yes.
Suicide dive by Orange Cassidy. Crossbody by Cassidy, followed by the Tilt-A-Whirl DDT. Diving DDT for a 2 count by Cassidy. Arm wrench into the corner by MJF. Shoulder breaker followed by a power bomb for 2 by MJF. Cassidy dumps MJF out of the ring to counter that heat seeker pile driver. Cassidy dives onto the Inner Circle, which looks fine.
Yeah.
But it's one of those contrived kind of things.
Everyone stand really close together for a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just watching the 2018 War Games match, and so there's the Tower of Doom thing where Hansen's got Bobby Fish choking him out.
Yeah.
And then but it that looked cool, and Cole's hanging on the top of the cage, so he power bombs and the suplex, and then they all are getting up, and then Ricochet's on the top of the cage, double moonsault.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was probably one of the most contrived ones I've seen.
But if you're gonna do a double moonsault, we'll stack up 50 people for you. That's fine.
I will at least give him that it was a double moonsault.
Support the double moonsault.
Yes. Anyways, back on topic. Heat Seeker by MJF, but best friends catch the feet on the ropes. Jericho hands the bat to MJF, and Cassidy outsmarts MJF, kind of pulling an Eddie Guerrero-esque thing, which MJF attempted, but
they took turns doing it. Yeah.
Which is, and it's hard to explain because I don't exactly remember it perfectly, but I'd say go try to watch it because it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then a beach break for a near fall by Cassidy. Cassidy gets out of the salt of the earth, Fujiwara armbar. Orange punch by Cassidy for a near fall. Orange punch by Cassidy, but MJF gets a rope break. Ringside brawl, and Miro attacks Cassidy when the ref is distracted. And MJF gets the pin, draping his arm over for the win. Best friends attack Miro and Kip Sabian. Miro beats up a bunch of security guards and throws the guy off the stage. And I thought it was a pretty good main event. Felt a lot of really weird ones all these people got in, so it was kind of confused. But
right,
I liked MJF retaining the ring by devious means because
it's way better on a heel, right?
Yes.
It has to be. And Orange Cassidy's whole character would be he doesn't care. Why would he even want it, to be honest?
Right.
I did like that we were talking about maybe his orange punch wasn't quite as effective because his fingers had been worked over, right? Which is why MJF was able to kick out of it, sort of thing.
This match, however, though, while being pretty good, could not save a subpar show. Other than that Inner Circle segment, I really didn't care for this too much. There were two matches that had weird or anticlimactic finishes, and nothing else really stood out other than that Inner Circle segment, which I kind of liked. I figured this wouldn't be on the same level as Winter is Coming, but I expected more from this.
So what did you give it?
Sting and... Hold on. Sting and Shaq both had bad and boring segments, which hurts this show more than helping.
Right.
And the one thing that was supposed to be really interesting, which was Omega and Callis, turned out to be just a slightly different rendition of their previous segment the day before. The show is whatever, and if I could describe it in one word, it would be meh. I would give the show a low B-.
Wow.
I'll be generous.
You were being generous because I didn't think it was a strong show either. Nothing outside the main event, and I don't even think it was amazing, but nothing else outside the main event even seemed to matter at all because it was essentially dark matches, right? Like it was...
Are you talking matches?
Matches.
Okay.
It was like already in the ring versus somebody, and it's over really quickly, right? Compared to last week, a major step back, I think you would agree.
Agreed.
I am actually a little more down on this than you, despite not sounding like it. Maybe I actually gave it a C and was pretty disappointed. And that's considering like my expectations weren't high because they
No, me too.
One thing I like is
their
they
show
always
was amazing last
they
week.
always do run down the card for us, right? And I was looking at that card last week going like, ugh, there's not much
Yeah,
here.
and other than that 6-man tag,
That's
which
what I
was
really
quite
wanted to see,
disappointing.
and it was disappointing. So I wouldn't say this show was a chore, but I also wouldn't say I enjoyed it. And there's nothing I really think anybody needs to see. You've probably already seen the Callis Omega thing. That was really the only big thing I guess they would argue you need to see. So again, it was kind of a disappointing show. They've been up and down, right? But anyways, it'll always rebound and be entertaining again. I have full belief in them. So
yes.
We'll see.
They will definitely rebound.
They
AEW is
They're too
a
good
great
not
promotion. Yeah, they know what they're doing. I trust them. This was just an off week again.
Agreed. So let's transition into our weekly trivia session then, all right? So it's off the top of his head, and in honor of Pat Patterson, my topic this week is the Intercontinental Championship.
Sweet.
Right? So again, I'm hoping sometimes I do things like this and you doubt my sources and you might know more than some of my sources. So I hope these facts are correct.
I'd hope so too.
My anticipation is that, my prediction, I guess, is that you might not do too well in the first few and then you'll start to crush later on. But let's see.
Okie dokie.
So going way back, what two continents were originally being referred to when the Intercontinental title was created?
Rio de Janeiro?
No, what continents?
Europe.
No. North and South America. You'll never get that one.
Duh.
Okay, so the championship belt design was changed. I don't think you know this, but you're a bit of a belt historian, so maybe. The belt design changed with the center plate now centered on the Atlantic Ocean in a map including Western Africa and Europe. What year was this change made?
1985.
Why do you know that?
I don't.
You guessed?
Well, I knew it was sometime around then. Was I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Sweet.
Yeah, 1985.
I figured like 83 was the world title, so I figured it had to be sometime a little after that.
Good logic. Very correct.
All right. I was kind of guessing, but it was like an educated guess.
Good. You had some reasoning behind it.
Wasn't totally clueless.
On April 7th, 1989, the championship was first defended outside of North America.
Ooh.
Who were the wrestlers involved in this match?
Tio Santana?
No.
Don Morocco?
No.
Greg Valentine?
No.
Pat Patterson?
One of my favorite
Ken Patera.
upper mid-card heels.
Ken Patera.
Who used to kiss a woman every time he'd come
Rick
down.
Rude.
Correct. Versus who did he feud with?
Ultimate Warrior.
Correct. Pulled good matches out of that lug, to be honest, did Rick Rude.
Nice.
All right. Who was this is pretty easy, but anyways, so let me finish the question.
Okay.
Who was the first Intercontinental Champion, and what was unique about the situation surrounding his victory? This might have come up before. I know you know this, so go ahead.
Pat Patterson, he won it in a fictional tournament in Rio de Janeiro. He was the North American champion previous to this, and WWE made a fictional South American championship.
Yes.
So he quote unquote unified the titles.
Yes.
But he didn't actually.
Right.
It's just to tell a tale of triumph and we fought hard to be the first champion.
Add some
even though
prestige
they just
to the title.
Right, and they awarded it. But I think despite this weird thing, the history of the title, at least from a modern day perspective, all the great champions we've gotten and all the great matches we've gotten from the title, I think it's got its own prestige despite this dumb story.
It's just funny to think that you could get away with that, right? Because imagine trying to...
No, because imagine they came up with that story now.
No chance, right?
No.
There's no footage of it. It didn't happen.
I think we were talking about a similar thing like in Home Alone, how that would not work.
No, there's almost every movie from the pre-cell phone era, or pre-smartphone era at least, wouldn't work now because everybody could just get out of every situation. Hey, Google, right? And figure things out. But yes, okay, moving on, sorry. Who vacated the Intercontinental title after defeating Hulk Hogan to win the World Heavyweight Championship in 90?
Ultimate Warrior.
Correct. That was too easy. I knew that.
That was a dumb question.
So following up on that, who went on to win the tournament to crown a new Intercontinental Champion after the Warrior vacated
Mr. Perfect.
it? Correct. Wait till I finish because your people might not hear your answer and they want to hear the question, right?
Mr. Perfect.
Thank you. Who is the only woman to hold the Intercontinental Championship? Oh, I put who did she defeat to win the title?
I'm looking at the 2-pack of her and Triple H right now. So Chyna.
And who did she
defeat Jeff Jarrett?
Yes, I believe.
At Armageddon, was it 2000?
Was it the housekeeping? Or was
yeah,
that
good
later?
housekeeping match.
Right.
Yeah.
So following the WWF's purchase of WCW in March of 2001, the title was unified with the WCW United States Championship at Survivor Series, causing the United States Championship to become inactive. Who was involved in the match and who won?
So Test was the Intercontinental Champion. Edge was the U.S. Champion. Edge won.
Yes, you're right.
And that was Test's only Intercontinental title.
So I think anything like around 2000 and beyond, you're pretty dialed in on. So let's go to 2002.
All right.
After the first brand split had begun and the WWF was renamed WWE, Raw General Manager Eric Bischoff began unifying his brand singles championships. Did he ever? So on July 22nd, 2002, the Intercontinental Championship was unified with the European Championship in a ladder match. Who were the competitors and who won the match?
This is too easy.
Go ahead.
Rob Van Dam was the Intercontinental Champion. Jeff Hardy was the European Champion.
Correct.
RVD won. Jeff Hardy won the title from William Regal a week after he competed in the Undisputed title ladder match against Undertaker.
If you say so. I'm going to trust everything outside of
it was in July, right?
The answer to the question. The rest, I just believe you.
Okay.
On August 19th, 2002, good old Bischoff made a 6-minute gauntlet match for the Hardcore Championship.
Do you mean 6-man? Or 6-minute?
I think it would be 6-man, probably. Sorry. With the winner facing the Intercontinental Champion in a second unification match the next week on Raw. Who won the gauntlet match and who won the subsequent unification match?
Tommy Dreamer
won the gauntlet match, and
I didn't even know there's a gauntlet, but I know he lost to RVD
in the unification match.
Yes,
that is
and
correct.
he had like that crappy like hardcore title. I don't know if you remember it, but it had like the side plate or like the license.
Not a detail I would
had
know.
the license plate on the
nice.
plate, and it was made out of the old European Championship.
Nice.
I think. Well, that makes sense because it was just recently retired.
Exactly. On September 30th, 2002, here we go again.
Okay.
Bischoff scheduled a match to unify the Intercontinental Championship with the recently created Raw exclusive World Heavyweight Championship. Who were the competitors in the match and who won?
Triple H and Kane, right?
And who won?
Triple H.
Correct.
And then he retired the IC title for a little bit.
Right.
Which was dumb.
So over Bischoff's objections, Raw co-general manager Stone Cold Steve Austin reactivated the Intercontinental Championship on May 5th, 2003 episode of Raw and declared any former champion on the roster eligible to enter a battle royal at Judgment Day for the title.
Yep.
Who won the battle royal?
Christian.
Correct. Canadian boy.
I just like to say how dumb it is to unify all these titles. Like, maybe the hardcore title because it was kind of a comedy title and had run its course, but European title probably still had some potential. And then the IC title being retired for a bit really baffles me because it's like, do you only want to have like one title?
It is my favorite in terms of who wrestles for that, right?
Same, it's just like, do you only want to have one title? Like, I'd get like maybe only want to have like maybe two titles, like the World and IC, but
right, that's fine. And
it's
tag,
just like
away we go.
Yeah, and then I think they had women's on Raw.
Yeah,
I think it was.
You gotta have
Anyways, I just think it's really confusing.
Yep.
But that's Eric Bischoff or WWE Creative.
It is.
For
You
ya.
gotta just do crazy things for the sake of doing crazy things.
Yes, and probably WWE Creative as well. So
on October 2nd, 2011, at Hell in a Cell, who introduced a modified version of the classic championship belt design with a white strap, the modern WWE scratch logo, and other embellishments.
Cody Rhodes.
Even I knew that one.
Yeah,
I love
Undashing Cody Rhodes.
I love the white belt.
Yeah, and at first it was like kind of weird, but then they got like the nice version that we had until end of last year.
Warrior had that, right? And it looked very cool.
No, Michaels.
Warrior never had the white one?
No, he had like yellow and...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Michaels was the
colorblind.
white.
Forgive
yes.
me. In July 2016, WWE reintroduced the brand split. I did not remember this one for sure. During the 2016 draft, then Intercontinental Champion The Miz was drafted to SmackDown. Just days later, he successfully defended the title against Raw, who at Battleground Raw at Battleground, making the title exclusive to SmackDown. But then I don't even have what the question was. Sorry, I messed up.
Is it who it is?
I guess, yeah. Who was it?
Darren Young.
Yes, you
with
got
Bob
it.
Backlund.
Bailed me out there. Somehow I missed the actual question.
That's
it was,
weird.
who did he beat, I guess.
Yeah, and it was like some weird finish with Bob Backlund kind of taking his shirt off, and
I don't remember this.
it was some weird.
It was only 4 years ago.
Non-finish. This was the pay-per-view I was like watching a bunch of because it was like close to my birthday.
Right.
I fondly remember that Shield triple threat.
Nice. You love the Shield.
Yeah.
All right, I think this is my last one, and I know you're going to get it. On the November 22nd, 2019 episode of SmackDown, Sami Zayn presented a new belt design to who?
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Correct.
And it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look as good.
No, I'm not. I'm getting used to it, as you always do, but
I would say it doesn't look bad. Just kind of like the new U.S. title. It doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the U.S. title might be an improvement. Because the other one just had like the flag pasted on the...
I like the traditional ones. I'm old. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to the end of our trivia based off the top of his head segment. Yes. And we will transition into our next in-depth review of weekly wrestling programming, which is our NXT review. The show starts with a War Games recap video package that I thought looked really cool, right? A slickly produced highlight package.
Yeah, and he had like all the participants kind of chirping in their reactions to after.
And it had a mix of like commentary from some of the highlights of the match and the theme song from the show, I think, playing underneath it. I thought it looked really good. It was a cool little package to start.
Yeah, and if you didn't see it, then
yeah, and if you did, helpful. It was a quick recap of all the kind of some of the cool things that happened on what was a really good show. Again, we covered it. You can go listen to it.
And this is what I wish they would have done with the Omega Callis thing on AEW.
So the show officially begins with Balor entering the ring, and he tells us that it's Wednesday and the champion is back. Then talks about some people love him and some people hate him. And then he's cut off by Pete Dunne's music, and Pete Dunne walks out. And I'm like, wow, Pete Dunne is going to talk. I'd
like to say
rare.
Pete Dunne has a great theme and a great look.
So Dunne speaks and says that he and Balor are similar, and it's time that they stand face to face. He's glad Balor's back, but he'll put him back on the shelf and take his title. Then the Undisputed music hits, and they interrupt Pete Dunne. And Kyle O'Reilly comes out, and he speaks. He went to war with Dunne at War Games, and he got his hand raised. He knows Finn has forgotten about him, even though Balor won their championship match. He spent the last month eating food through a straw, sort of referring to how O'Reilly broke his jaw, right? And yes, Balor might have won the match, but like,
did he
I
really?
injured you badly, right?
Yeah.
And then he's interrupted by Damian Priest's theme, and he enters the ring and he speaks. Balor, he says Balor versus Priest is a marquee match, and that's something.
And I thought he had the worst argument for a title match. Like, really? Oh yeah. Us facing off would be a money match.
Yep, it's something they both want, and then he starts to insult the others for things like losing their accents, taking time off from wrestling, and not beating Leon Ruff.
Dunn was like, aren't you the geezer who couldn't even beat Leon Ruff? Which I thought was a really good line. He's like, aren't you the guy Pat McAfee pays to keep his mouth shut? Which I also thought was kind of good. And then O'Reilly mocks Dunn's accent. He's like, shouldn't you be in the hospital visiting your mate Bobby? And then Kyle's like, shouldn't you be in the hospital visiting your mate Bobby? And then they're arguing, and then...
Yep. So there's insults all around. Basically, they take turns trading insults.
I've watched this multiple times. That's why I know it.
It's good because I really summarized that part, so that worked out quite well that you basically know it all.
I watched it before we even watched the show, so.
Balor then says they need to learn some manners, and he sort of sneaks out of the ring and heads up the ramp as the other three are insulting each other. From the ramp, Balor announces that someone will face him at New Year's Evil, but figuring out who it will be is Regal's problem, not his.
Yeah, he's like, who's going to get the Finn rub? Not my problem, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yes, the Finn rub is how he called. You're right, that's what he called it. Scarlett then walks up to Balor on the ramp.
After that epic music plays, because that's a good theme.
It's true. And Balor has a message for Cross. When Cross is ready, he's ready. Priest speaks
Not a good line.
And says that Cross can step to him anytime and they can fight, as Scarlett just stands there smiling.
Whatever she was wearing is like the LOD shoulder pads to like the extreme.
Yeah. So for me, there was nothing wrong with this necessarily, but it was really long, and I don't love this precedent being set that NXT now starts with a long in-ring talking segment.
I at least like this because it's like setting up a match at the TV special, whoever that may be. I really want to see Dunn versus Balor.
Me too.
And
Dunn O'Reilly again 1,000 times.
Yeah,
fine.
and if Cross returns, then that might be who challenges Balor, but I think
he'll
probably get a feud with Priest. That seems to be the only reason Priest would say that last bit.
Yes, I agree.
So that's probably going to be it. And then I really want to see Dunn versus Balor. I think that'd be so good.
So this is a very main roster thing to do, though.
Yeah,
I prefer the show starting with a hot match and then do this a little bit later on, or even second thing in. I just have years and years and years of watching Raw and SmackDown start out with people talking for 15, 20 minutes, and I can't stand it. So I'm hoping this isn't like a trend. And no, this wasn't bad. I guess my issue's more with the...
We've seen it too much, so it's like almost like deja vu.
Well, it's more like the positioning of it than it existing, right? Like, just move this back a little bit, give me an exciting match to get... That's just me personally again, right? So no, I didn't think this was a bad segment, but I do have
too many years of the main roster crap, right?
So here's a little something I'll point out and becomes something you might notice as I talk about this episode. Little did I know that involving a whole pile of wrestlers in one segment was going to be a recurring theme to this show. And I don't even think I pointed it out to you, but now that I've pointed that out, pay attention to that little nugget of like, here's a whole bunch of wrestlers in a pile together.
All right.
So Dunn is asked a question backstage, and as he starts to speak, he's attacked by Killian Dane, which I had almost forgotten about, but yes, they have tension, right? Remind everyone why.
The part he kicked the car door into Dane's arm, riding him off.
That's right, in the most dangerous place on earth, which is the NXT parking lot. Why would anyone even go there? I would helicopter directly to the top of the building and in, because the parking lot is incredibly unsafe.
And if you forget to have a car or luggage, you could get arrested.
Yes, absolutely.
That's illegal.
You must have one or the other.
Right.
So then we transition into just, the hottest division in all of wrestling, the Cruiserweight division. We get Jake Atlas versus Swerve Scott.
I just laughed when I saw Scott. I'm like, yeah, Atlas isn't gonna win.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe you're wrong. Escapes, counters, and reversals to start. Atlas escapes outside and gets kicked from the apron, the apron, and gets rolled back in. Hurricane Rana by Atlas, but then he misses a running crossbody right after that. Scott hits a leaping flatliner for 2. I do like flatliners for some reason. They're simple, but they look cool.
A good example of that is Peter Dune in the bitter end.
Yep. Super kick and a spinning
elevated one.
A spinning knee by Atlas, a clothesline by Atlas, and what do I put in quotes? A modified suplex, which was some sort of near botch that we weren't
it
quite
looked
sure.
really weird. I was confused.
Strike exchange and Scott rolls through and hits a jumping kick. More counters and reversals on the mat until Atlas eventually shifts his weight into a pinning predicament and gets the 3 count on Scott, and that match is over. Little nugget at the end is that Swerve refuses to shake hands and looks generally annoyed with the whole situation. And what did you think?
Yeah, he looked really angry, but I'm thinking this heel turn, or a possible heel turn, could be what Scott needs to finally be interesting.
Right? Yep.
And this really didn't do much for me. Don't really know what they're trying to do with Atlas. His theme is really bad, and he's not much better in ring.
So it's funny because your summary is different than mine, but the same, I think, sentiment. Whereas, like, the thing that interested you most was what you started with, right? The Swerve development. The match is whatever, but at least, and that's kind of what I have, right?
And I just think Atlas is really, like, he's not a bad in-ring
competitor,
not, but he's not interesting. He's not, he's not anything special. So I don't really know what they're trying to accomplish here.
And this show, we say it all the time, they have trouble developing characters, at least some of them, right?
And I think that's, Atlas is another place where they're struggling.
100%. So I thought the match was fine at best. It doesn't raise the profile of Atlas or the Cruiserweight division because it really wasn't anything special. If you're trying to push, like, a certain style of wrestling in the Cruiserweight division, this wasn't it. My favorite part, again, was the little bit of a change in Swerve Scott at the end. He's really cool in the ring when they let him work. But like,
he literally hit that, like, house call kick, but then didn't go for the pin after. I'm like, dude, that's your finisher, no?
But like so many on NXT, he needs some sort of character development, so a heel turn would be a start. Like you, I think, I'm not seeing it with Atlas. He seems fine in the ring, but there's nothing exciting about him.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, if you want to torture yourself, listen to his theme.
Again, not much character development other than the commentators telling us about this change in attitude, right? So it's another one of these... They're not showing us anything. The commentary are just going to keep telling us, right, that his new attitude, because he walks to the ring.
Maybe he'll start wearing jeans.
He walks to the ring with a little more aggression, and he like wears darker trunks.
Oh yeah.
I think.
Speaking of walking to the ring, the commercial break came back mid-entrance.
Yeah.
So...
yes, it was. So the Cruiserweight division is pretty much pointless right now. It's like the cruiserweights are disposable and they're just sort of rotating through them with very little effort, right? Like, oh, okay, Swerve didn't work, so let's just start saying Atlas has a new attitude.
Jake Atlas guy. Oh, let's try him.
So time to push attitude. Time to push Atlas. Give him a new attitude. Done with Swerve. Have him lose to Atlas.
Even though
annoying.
I don't love him, I feel like if Kushida makes the weight limit,
I'm pretty sure
that might be a place for him at least.
So all of these guys can wrestle, but we're not given any reason to be interested in them or the feuds they're in.
Right.
And I started saying it last week, and I'm gonna bang this drum probably most weeks: is get the title off Escobar and get him out of this division, right? Because soon
he's above this division.
You're not going to be able to wash the taint of this title being on him, right? So I think he's a star. He has the size to be fine in any division, so get him out of this. You don't have Johnny Gargano in the cruiserweight division, right? For a reason. Get Escobar out of there and doing something else, please.
Escobar would be a fantastic North American champion.
He would. Ciampa now speaks and says that now nobody's safe. He's going to let the past die and move forward, and he calls out Cameron Grimes.
Which
kind of randomly, but it makes sense.
I think we both agreed this is exactly who he should target.
Yes, so
not Thatcher.
He calls Grimes out for being loud, brash, and arrogant, and maybe insecure. And he says, tonight we'll find out if Grimes is confident or insecure. Yes, so this makes sense because this is the type of person a couple weeks ago Ciampa was talking about, sort of attacking,
and then he went
somehow
after Thatcher.
Went after the opposite of that in Thatcher. So that's cool, but on the other hand, this is sort of out of nowhere, right? Like the storyline development was, so I'm going to wrestle this guy tonight because I said so. Is basically right, because they don't have much past.
Well, I think maybe they put this match together and were like, crap, we need this to make sense.
So it feels a little bit lazy, right? Is all I'm saying. It just is like I'm choosing you to wrestle, so now I'm wrestling you, even though that choice makes sense. But that's the only development we have from the Grimes side. So not the strongest, I thought. But anyways,
Agreed.
We move into one of your favorites, which is the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Imperium versus Everrise. My notes are terrible on this because it was basically a quick little sprint, right? So I apologize in advance.
I don't blame you.
Not very
Just
good.
Reflecting on this match,
it was fast and just
I'll talk
stuff.
about it after.
Yeah. So we get a brawl on the floor to start, and Eichner and Gibson start, but then there's a quick tag out to Bartel, and he takes control. So we got Martel and Bartel as well, which makes it really fun. So Martel interferes, and Gibson tags Drake, who flies around the ring and sort of takes everybody out in a quick flurry. We get a slingshot to the outside by Drake while Gibson holds Bartel on the floor for a sort of a combination move. Suplex by Bartel out of desperation, and Martel shows up and attacks both of the down men. Everrise then has their quick tags and double team moves to Drake. I know you don't like Everrise, but I like their style. I feel like
they're okay, but they're not much more than mid-card
I feel fodder. Like they have a style and they stick to it. I think there's potential though, but anyways. Lots of action in different combinations with Everrise attacking whenever the opportunity presents itself, which I really liked as well. So they're not looking to be in there landing the first strikes, but while everybody else is down or hurt, that's when they're kind of jumping into the action, which I think is really cool as well. Imperium double team Drake and take out Gibson on the floor. Everrise almost steal a pin after a double team move by Imperium, and then we do get the ticket to Mayhem to Parker, and Drake gets the cover and the pinfall. So the Grizzled Young Veterans win here.
Hell yeah.
It sounds like you have things to say. I kind of enjoyed this. It was quick, action-packed, and at this point, I'm just optimistic about any attention paid to the tag division is appreciated. Everrise, I think, is good as the cheap heel opportunists in this division. The division, in my opinion, they should focus on it at least one segment plus match every week. They have time, right? And if you're starting to sort of develop some tag teams, I'm all for it because they haven't focused on it in quite a while. So I'm optimistic, and I did not mind this. What about you?
This match was okay, but it felt really unnecessary. The build is like, Grizzled Young Veterans return. They're going to have a match against these guys because they beat them up in their return. And then Imperium attacked them, so we're going to have that match instead. But then Everrise attacked them, so it's like, oh, now we have like this heel three-way thingy.
Yep.
And so this was basically a tag 2-on-2 with Everrise coming in a little bit. This really felt unnecessary to me.
And again, it was another sort of, it's that theme of throw a whole bunch of people together this show, right?
Yeah.
So here's another example.
This was fine. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. It just felt really random.
Yep.
Despite the build, but it wasn't much of a build, let's say.
They promote that they're going to talk the casualties of war games after the break, and they come back and they do.
Oh, this was the one with the people talking, not the opening one.
Yes, so this is where they now have the wrestlers talk about how brutal and tough war games was, and it's set to music with more highlights playing. And this is where I'm really super summarizing, right? It's just cutting from different people about what War Games
It was
about.
pretty good, though, so I recommend trying to check it out.
So we learned that Bobby Fish is out, Dakota Kai is out, we know Candice LeRae is out, so it begins to beg the question.
Well, like, LeRae's here, but, like,
out.
she's
broken arm, right?
Injury.
So it kind of begs the question, are these War Games worth it? Are they going to have to tone it down a little bit? I don't think they're looking to have 3 prominent wrestlers out every time they hold one of these pay-per-views, but anyways... we enjoyed it.
It is like a pretty strong match every year, but you honestly got to think, is it worth all these injuries sometimes?
They spend a bit of time explaining how LeRae pulled the chair over herself and broke her own arm, sort of sacrificing herself for the team. So she sort of pulled the chair onto her as Shotzi was doing a senton, right? And at the time, it looked really weird. It's like, was the chair supposed to be on her because she grabbed it and put it on her? So I'm glad they sort of explained that no, that was her intention. Even though it was going to hurt her, she was going to hurt Shotzi in the process, right? So I appreciated that because it looked kind of weird to me in the context of the match at the time. So this was a really cool and well-produced summary of the brutality of that show. But for me, there was an issue because I watched the show and they had a detailed highlight package already to begin this show. So I thought, even though this was good and entertaining, maybe there was a better way to spend this time on something else, developing something else. Because it's like they started the show with a recap. They're now wedging a recap in the middle, even though both of them were well done. I'm just thinking, could we not... Because we're complaining, right? They don't develop any characters. So maybe this could have been time they could have used for that. But again, it was a cool little piece. Yeah? Mm-hmm. All right, so Mackenzie asks Toni Storm about War Games, and Toni says she made the right decision because her side won. She calls out Ember Moon for stealing her thunder when she returned, and that at the time was odd, right? Remember, Toni Storm returned and Ember Moon returned on the same show.
I thought Ember Moon's was better because it's like there's actually the hype packages, and then Toni Storm's just like, hey, it's Toni Storm.
It made hers kind of anticlimactic, right? So the fact that they're going back to this makes sense.
At least that's, like, logical, yeah.
She starts to say that she's the next NXT Women's Champion, but Io interrupts, tells her she doesn't like her, and attacks her. They fight to the ringside area, and then, in the ring, palm strike, running knees to the corner, and Storm retreats, only to be attacked by Ember Moon and rolled back into the ring. Io hits her moonsault, and her music plays. This was fine. But here's what I'm saying, like, how many of these we all want a shot moments can there be tonight, right? There's already been 3, basically, kind of with tag teams, with this and with what was the opening segment, right? For me, it's too early for Toni Storm to get a shot at Io Shirai. Why not Dakota Kai? Why not Gonzalez? Well, obviously we know why not Candice LeRae or Dakota Kai now, but just in theory, right? To me, this division is stacked with women who are killing it lately, and Storm just shows up. I really don't think she deserves to be thrown into the title mix. Not just
to NXT UK.
Not just because we're not the biggest fans of her, but just like, even if she's amazing, right? She just got here, and there's a bunch of women that we think are doing a really great job.
And that are better and just, I think, deserve it more.
I agree. So, again, this was another one of here's a whole bunch of people thrown together. We all want a shot. We all want a shot.
Yes.
Any thoughts? No?
Well, I think Toni Storm should go back to UK. I think their division's a little thin other than Kaylee Ray, and I think even though she's not the best, she could have some use there.
For sure.
And like you said, the division is stacked, and she just got here, and she's not the best talent either. So. And
you can't even say, well, we need a heel, because I feel like there's at least 3 heels killing it right now between Kai, Gonzalez, LeRae, right? So.
And even if they were to turn Io Shirai back heel, then that would also work.
Yeah.
The division's just too stacked, and she's not good enough to hold any relevancy here. Kind of like how I feel about Shotzi. So
I don't know how their pay-per-views and things line up, but maybe Toni Storm is like the sort of in between before we get Gonzalez Shirai, which they think is the main attraction. I'm not sure, but we'll see, I guess, where it goes.
Yep.
So then we get another, and again, I sort of question here whether it's just our version of the NXT we're watching, since, as we may have mentioned, we can't watch it on the network that we pay for in Canada, so we have to find other ways to watch it. But there was a super hard, jarring cut here, right, to Grimes standing in the ring. So I don't know if everybody got that on the actual version, because we can't do that in Canada. Thanks, WWE Network. Figure yourselves out. Anyway,
much appreciated.
Cameron Grimes versus Tommaso Ciampa is now. We get a headlock by Ciampa to start, arm work by Ciampa until Grimes gets an ankle lock. Thatcher comes down with the chair and sits at ringside, so more people coming together, obviously. Ciampa notices this while applying another headlock. There's a brief flurry by Grimes before a running back elbow by Ciampa. Grimes heads outside and Ciampa follows, and obviously this takes us too close to Thatcher. We get a forearm by Ciampa, and back in the ring, knee lift by Grimes for 2. Back from commercial, and Ciampa is in control with a chin lock. 6 consecutive clotheslines by Ciampa to stay in control, and then there's a running knee into the corner for 2 by Ciampa, and then they show a kind of headshot of Thatcher, and we get to see his ear, which has clearly been stitched up and was ripped right open.
Yeah, it both looks gross and cool.
It does. Knee strike by Ciampa, forearm by Grimes, and then he hits his Spanish fly crossbody thing that we don't know what to call it for 2. Grimes up top, but he's chopped and pushed off to the floor. Tyler Rust attempts to interfere, but gets caught and narrowly escapes the Willow's bell. It looks like this is enough of a distraction for Grimes to hit the cave-in, but Ciampa manages to escape, slides out of the ring. Grimes slides out to follow him, so Ciampa dives back in the ring, and as Grimes is trying to climb back through the ropes to get in the ring as well, he gets caught with the Willow's bell, and Ciampa is your winner in this match.
Grimes lost to Ciampa's not even finisher.
So Ciampa and Thatcher have words as they pass on the ramp, sort of thing. Grimes yells at Thatcher, and Thatcher takes out Grimes's leg outside the ring. So again, a whole bunch of people involved. A good match, I thought, but this had no build other than Ciampa choosing to fight Grimes tonight. I like Thatcher having a lackey. I think I mentioned that last week. I think that works for him. And I like that he can't get over his loss to Ciampa, right? Like he's just annoyed by losing to this guy, which I think fits Thatcher as well. My only concern here is that Grimes was basically used as like enhancement for the Thatcher Ciampa storyline.
Like I said, he didn't even lose to the guy's finisher.
Right. And then not only that, right? I made a note too that he also gets taken out by Thatcher in 2 seconds after the match. So lose to Ciampa in a pretty quick, somewhat competitive match.
Get beat by Thatcher.
And then get taken out again right after. So, I mean, I'm sort of biased because I'd really, really like Cameron Grimes. Same. And he might be happy, right? The bottom line is he's on TV every week. He's doing stuff every week. He obviously gets some attention paid to him. So
Ciampa would finally be going after people he should be going after, like Grimes, and now it's back to Thatcher again, who doesn't fit the description of who he said he was gunning for.
It's just like a whole bunch of people milling around, and we'll see who collides with each other, sort of thing. I felt this episode of NXT was throw a bunch of people together and we'll figure it out.
Let's see what they can do.
Right? So Gonzalez is then being asked about her thoughts on her match with Ember Moon. So War Games was the biggest night of her career, and her team won, and she pinned the champion, which is all factually correct. Dakota is injured, and after tonight, Moon will regret returning to NXT. I thought this was really brief, but she did a good job, and this woman might be the total package, right? Which means, unfortunately, she'll be gone soon and wasted on the main roster.
Agreed.
Right?
That is probably what's going to happen, because when else have they done something good with an NXT star?
Her speaking is totally fine. In ring, she's fine. She has a great look. Like, she's had some good matches, other than the ladder match was not her strongest. I feel like they were
her fault.
They were asking a lot out of her, right, at that point.
To carry shots.
So unfortunately, I don't think she'll be here that long, but she did a good job here.
Yep.
Then we get to, and this is not a strong endorsement of NXT, the only thing I was really looking forward to, which is the Xia Li and Boa sort of storyline progression. So they're both going through some grueling training during this segment. Xia Li
or punishment in Boa's case
is crying at some point. Boa is being hit with a kendo stick. Both are being yelled at by the master to work harder and faster. The training is basically torture, lots of blood and spit and sweat in the imagery. The final image is a close-up of the leader woman's face again, but her hair is obstructing the face just enough so that we can't clearly make out who it is. And I think she had
face paint or something.
So I thought this was really cool again, and even though we barely get anything each week, it's literally the thing I look forward to most each week right now. My issue is this, right? And I hate to find issues in everything, and it's not an issue yet, but it could be. They're being booked. They're going to have to be, when they come back and wrestle, right, after going through all of this stuff, they have to be booked really, really strongly for this to make any sense, right? And
they have to be booked weak because they've been being
punished? But I think the point is they're basically being trained to the point of being like assassins and being impervious to pain and stuff like that, is what it looks like to me. Like, if they're surviving this torturous training, how hard's a wrestling match going to be? Not that hard, right?
Right.
So I think that the issue might be, when they come back, they have to be, I feel like they need to be dominant if they're going through all of this training and stuff, right? And going into this storyline, they certainly weren't positioned anywhere on the card. So
Boa wasn't since that tournament, basically.
So
and Xylee was like floating around the lower mid card.
So my hope as a mid card fan is that they just position them as a dominant mid card duo, and they just like beat up lesser people for a while, because that would be interesting to me. But that's what I was thinking watching this, is if this is what they have to endure in training, I think they're going to have to be booked really strong when they come back, but we'll see. The commentators, I thought, after the segment's over, they look silly trying to talk about this, and they should just say nothing about it, right? For them to try and have their quick, like, all right, so each of you need to say like 1 or 2 sentences about what you just saw, and they do, and it sounds silly to me. So just let that marinate or whatever, and don't have the commentators talk about it at all is what I would prefer. Okay. Gargano, LeRae, Theory, and Hartwell come to the ring to celebrate. Johnny says they're the present and future of NXT, that they are the way, and I guess this is going to be their new faction name, which you don't like, but I don't
I would rather it be called the Gargano way, 'cause at least then it's like not just the way.
But I think that's the implied thing there, right?
I guess.
Theory calls them the Milky Way, and everyone tries to brush it off. This was not good. I don't know if it was an attempt at humor or what it was, but it was bad. Johnny says Candice broke her arm and he has stitches in his mouth, but they have overcome it all. He's Mr. Takeover and she's Ms. War Games. Johnny overnighted a gift.
I thought he was going to say Mrs. Takeover.
Yeah, Johnny overnighted a gift for Candice from Italy, and it's a custom trophy with the Shotzi Blackheart's head on it, which is kind of funny. It's just like a kind of a regular looking trophy with then like
the green-haired doll.
Yeah, doll head stuck on the top of it. So it's funny that that's imported from Italy, right? Because it's clearly just a smashing together of a couple things. Johnny notes that he and Austin were challenged for a tag match next week against Leon Ruff and Damian Priest, and he uses the line, "If you're not in the way, stay out of our way," which I think is kind of cool. I don't know. It's kind of cheesy, but I like it as well. Priest interrupts and congratulates them before saying that he would shove the pipe up Theory's butt. Suddenly, so again, look at all the people we're throwing together here, bud. Suddenly, he's jumped by Karrion Kross, who power bombs him on the stage, which looked kind of cool, and Kross heads to the parking lot, gets in his car, and drives away.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Theory and Hartwell were really awkward here, but that's likely why they're paired with these two, to sort of learn, right? And technically this is still a developmental program, so they're sort of being partnered up with Johnny and Candice, I think, to sort of learn a few things. Johnny and Candice are great, but again, so many people involved in everything tonight. I thought this was a bit long. I find Priest acceptable at best on the mic, but I guess they just need to let him keep practicing. And I think it's nice to see Kross back, and the powerbomb looked pretty good. So, I don't know. I didn't hate this segment.
I think Johnny it's just to get Kross back.
Johnny and Candice on camera to me is always good. It's good to see Kross back. We're going to get some star power. We're going to get that entrance, that presentation they do of him, which is so cool, I think, still. So this was a decent segment. Thoughts?
I thought it was fine. I think Gargano's always pretty good, so I'll always take a segment from him. The only point here is to get Kross back, but I'm happy because I really like him.
Yep. Tyler Rust is then interviewed about attacking Ciampa, and Malcolm Bivens interrupts to ask him about his card that he gave him a week ago.
Yeah, he used to have a tag match, and I don't remember him giving the card, so maybe this is supposed to be like, it's implied that like he did it, just maybe not on the show.
I guess, or is it something we got to follow stuff on the internet now? Come on. Rust leaves with him to talk business. And I think it's about time for Malcolm Bivens. I like managers and stables personally, especially on a show that we criticize for a lack of storylines, that this could give people something to do. And I think Bivens is actually pretty good on the mic. So if we can start pairing him up with people that need him to speak for them, I'm fine with the idea. You?
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good when he's managing that random tag team. So.
Yeah, he's a pretty talented guy. I think he's exactly the right type of person to be a manager, so I'm all for it. Bring a manager, bring stables, let's go.
Yes, agreed.
Yep. All right, so then we get Killian Dane versus Pete Dunne is our next match. Dane dominates the beginning of this match with tackles in the corner. He then catches Dunne with a pump kick. Dane keeps saying that Dunne tried to end his career, just sort of yelling as the match is going on. Dane no-sells some punches and grabs Dunne by the neck. Dunne then tosses Dane into the ring post to take the momentum. Dunne curb stomps and kicks Dane. Dane hits Dunne with an overhead belly-to-belly and then some gut punches. Dunne flips away from the corner and hits Dane with an enziguri. We get a snap German and a hand stomp from Dunne as we head into the commercial break. We come back and Dunne has Dane in a side headlock, but Dane eventually hits a suplex to escape. Dunn then pulls down the top rope to send Dane to the outside, and as Dane gets back onto the apron, Dunn catches him with a Uranagi. Dane then delivers a powerbomb and an elbow drop for a 2 count. Dunn is lifted onto Dane's shoulders, but reverses the one-winged angel is what it looked like he was going for.
It's called Ulster Plantation is what he called it. I think it's
signature?
a little different. It's his finisher, I think. Or
Is it?
It is in the games, at least, and it's similar to a one-winged angel, at least.
It's reversed into an armbar, but then Dane reverses the armbar into a deadlift powerbomb, which was kind of neat. Dane hits Dunn with a nice shotgun dropkick. Dunn avoids a cannonball in the corner. Dunn comes up top and eventually gets hit with a big super fisherman suplex by Dane for a 2 count. Dunn then hits Dane with an enziguri, but Dane comes right back with a big lariat. Dane delivers a running senton, and then Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch run out to ringside, but they're quickly chased off by Drake Maverick carrying a steel chair. Maverick turns to cheer on Dane and celebrate his chasing Lorcan and Burch away, only for them to return and blindside him from behind. Dane attacks and chases away Lorcan and Burch, but of course, this is enough of a distraction, right? So as Dane enters the ring, he takes a punt by Dunn, then the bitter end, which wasn't the nicest one I've ever seen, if I'm being fair, even though I love Pete Dunne.
It was a bigger guy,
It is a big man, for sure. And Pete Dunne picks up the win. Thoughts, sir, before I give mine?
This match wasn't great. I think at least Pete Dunne won and he didn't lose, so I'll at least take that.
He won and he didn't lose. Those are true things.
But this was like, whatever. It wasn't much. It just... At least there was a storyline a bit going into this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have liked it, probably.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good match. Dane is a really talented big man, right? With nothing to do right now,
but
really.
We were talking about it. He's almost doing worse than he was in Sanity.
He is.
Because, like, yes, he's more relevant than he was in Sanity, but that doesn't mean he's doing better.
No, and he can't be... I mean, that's harsh, but I don't think he can be a singles wrestler. So it looks like maybe they're keeping the tag team with Maverick going, which I think is probably a good idea. I thought this match was pretty good. Dane's a talented guy. Dunn had to win, but as per WWE policy, he cannot win clean or even over a mid-carder who has nothing going on, which I find very frustrating. This is Pete Dunne. He is a superstar.
Freaking bruiserweight,
Let him win clean. Let him dominate. Who cares? It's no offense. It's Killian Dane, right? So I don't understand why it has to be this. Dane loses because he was distracted and went to help his buddy. Like, great. Anyways, a fine match, but Pete Dunne deserves to just crush. He's a main event player right now. He should dominate Killian Dane.
I think he is NXT champion material.
He is, 100%. Mackenzie Mitchell asked Leon Ruff if he's worried about next week's tag team match between Ruff and Priest versus Theory and Gargano because of what happened to Priest earlier tonight, taking that powerbomb from Cross, obviously. Theory and Gargano show up, with Gargano making fun of Priest getting injured and it potentially being a handicap match next week. So, just basically saying that Ruff's going to have to fight them both himself.
That's basically jinxing it at this point.
Right? Gargano and Theory then quickly leave, and Kushida just happens to be there and offers to be Ruff's partner.
Things are about to get serious.
Yes, he offers to be Ruff's partner next week, and Ruff accepts. And then they share a fist bump.
That was dumb.
So I guess they're selling Priest is out?
Yeah.
At least for a week, is what they're telling us. So I don't know. This is fine. Whatever. Go ahead.
Agreed. I didn't really care.
I really want to have opinions and have interesting insights and things, but certain things I'm just like,
they're making it hard,
right? So then we move into our main event, which is Raquel Gonzalez in another main event, right? This is 2 of the last 3 weeks she's been in the main event.
Yep. Versus
Ember Moon, who I've been loving her work in ring lately. So I was very interested in this match. Gonzalez early no-sells a low kick by Moon. Moon goes for a code breaker right away, but Gonzalez catches Moon and tosses her aside. Excuse me. Gonzalez woman handles Moon and tosses her across the ring several more times. Moon goes for an arm drag, but Gonzalez holds strong and slams Moon to the mat and hits her with a series of elbows. Moon gets a quick breather by drop-kicking Gonzalez to ringside. Moon then tackles Gonzalez off the apron as we head to a commercial break. Gonzalez, when we come back, has Moon in the gory special, but Moon escapes. Moon hits Gonzalez with a jawbreaker and then runs right into a big boot. Moon gains some more momentum after an STO into the turnbuckle, followed by a tornado DDT. Moon then dodges a few big boots and hits Gonzalez with a jumping kick to send her down to one knee. Moon hits Gonzalez with a sort of handspring into an elbow and a pendulum DDT for a 2 count. Moon then dives to the outside, shoves Gonzalez into the announce table, and then Ember Moon then tries to what would you call that? A pillar, some sort of scaffolding, whatever.
Yeah, I would say that's scaffolding, just
So
because the bars or whatever.
She starts to climb it. It happens to be right next to the announce table.
I don't know why that was there. Because,
I'm not sure
at
either.
least at TakeOver, it was like, because that was, they had to find a way to set up War Games in the CWC.
And I've never noticed it there before, but
like,
I don't know.
It's just now that's there.
So Moon climbs it as though she's going to do some sort of move off it, but gets yanked down and then this looked pretty cool, lawn darted into the ring post. I thought looked nice.
Yeah, that looked cool.
Gonzalez gets a near fall on Moon, and Moon sidesteps Gonzalez, sending her into the ring post. A running kick, and Moon gets a near fall on Gonzalez. Moon goes for an eclipse, but Gonzalez catches her. And as you pointed out, is this the first time someone's escaped, avoided, reversed, whatever?
I just don't remember someone catching eclipse like that.
So that's kind of cool. That's a big spot for Gonzalez, right? Like, this is the deadly finisher of all deadly finishers, and she's catching it out of the air, which is cool. Gonzalez hits Moon with a big clothesline, then Moon reverses the one-armed powerbomb into a victory roll for a near fall. Gonzalez tries again and hits Moon with the one-arm powerbomb for the win right there.
Yeah. Good one for Gonzalez, which I like to see.
It was, but then that's only 2 people involved in this match, so that's nowhere near enough.
That's not the requirement for the show.
Toni Storm, then Rhea Ripley comes out. This has to be a joke now. Multiple people running out in virtually every segment tonight. Ripley and Gonzalez stare down to end the show. And I asked you when we were watching it, did they forget we've seen them fight recently? Like, they were acting like this is 2 monsters that have been on this like path towards each other and that they've never met before. They just had a match within a month, yes?
Yes.
So I did not quite understand this whole like, wow, they're meeting face to face. Yeah, we saw them fight already. Anyways, I thought this was a good match with both of these women have had some really strong matches lately outside of the ladder match with Shotzi. I think Gonzalez winning clean is impressive, and the big push for her is clearly continuing, and I have no issue with it. I think they've built her. I think they built her kind of perfectly, right? And I didn't think she had this potential, right? I thought her ceiling was not this high, but I honestly think she could be a standout for quite a while.
No, I agree. I definitely didn't expect this when they introduced her at TakeOver. I think it was Portland when there's the street fight.
Right.
And she's really proven herself, so I'm happy for her for this push.
Yep, she's been really good. What did you think of the show? Overall thoughts and grades?
Overall, the show really did not impress, and neither of the shows this week were too thrilling, which sucks, because I obviously want to be watching something that's entertaining.
Everything was mediocre for me this week.
Right.
Everything.
I'd have to give this probably the same grade as Dynamite.
Which was a B?
I think it was a B-.
Okay.
I'd give this maybe even a C+.
Okay. So I thought it was okay, not great. I found the constant use, as I've mentioned many times, of so many extra people in almost every segment to become annoying by the end of the show. It's almost like they find it easier to clump a whole bunch of people together in one story than to write several separate storylines, and it almost feels lazy, right? Like they can't come up with stuff for individual stories, so let's just stick them together and see what shakes out, especially when it's so frequent on one show. The main event was good. Grimes Ciampa was good. Atlas Swerve was nothing really. The tag match was a decent sprint. Dunn Dane was enjoyable but not amazing. I think this show was a B, so I did enjoy it a little more than AEW. Again, it might be sort of an expectation thing, right? I expect a lot of AEW. I don't expect a ton from NXT at this point. So it was a B, but I put it's closer to a B- than a B+, if you know what I mean. And I'm hoping that Cross's return is going to sort of jumpstart things. And it's funny because I don't even think Cross is amazing in the ring. Like, I think he's good enough.
He's not bad.
But it's just the star power, right?
And just bad.
Yeah, just the star power.
He's just an entertaining character, too.
So I'm hoping that his return will get things going again.
Agreed.
All right, so let's transition into our any other wrestling business section.
I don't have anything.
It's all me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk some Ring of Honor. Getting into it quickly, Quinn McKay runs down the lineup for today's show.
Hand gestures.
We get and hand gestures for sure. A returning John Walters, who I've never heard of before, which I'm surprised once you hear his credentials. But anyways, he will face Tracy Hot Sauce Williams in a Pure Rules match, and Mike Bennett will face Vincent in a grudge match. So we then get a replay of the finish to the Brody King Shane Taylor match from last week that I really, really liked. And we get Brody King's post-match comments where he just says he's now beaten 2 former champions in his last 2 matches, and he's coming for Rush's title at Final Battle, and violence is the answer. That's his big thing, is violence. We then get a recap of Josh Woods pinning Jay Lethal last week, followed by his comments. And he says that beating someone like Lethal is amazing, and the pure rules were made for him. He's going all the way to the top, and he wishes that Silas Young were here to see it, because Silas Young is his mentor sort of thing, so he hasn't been around lately. So he's just, I guess, reminding us of that affiliation sort of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, again, these packages and quick recaps are fine, always well done. We then get a back and forth video package with Vincent and Bennett taking turns speaking. So it's a little bit of a different promo package than what they've been doing. It's usually you have your individual package and then I have mine. So this one's a combined back and forth. Bennett refuses to use the name Vincent and calls him Vinny because he has always been Vinny despite whatever disgusting portrayal he's going for now. Vincent is confused as to why he is the bad guy. It was Bennett that brought Taven to ROH to give him everything he ever wanted. When Taven destroyed his knee, Bennett left him all alone to the point where Vincent was all Taven had left. Bennett then says that when Taven and Vincent went to form the new kingdom, Vincent reached out to Bennett, because Bennett was out of the company at this point, to make sure that he was fine with it. Bennett said he was okay with it because Vincent was one of them, one of the family. He let them borrow the kingdom with the expectation that it would be returned to him in the condition he left it. Now he's angry, motivated, and hungry, and he's not someone you want to mess with. Vincent then says to tell Bennett that this is the biggest mistake he's ever made since you. This was pretty good, and I liked the back and forth style of the video. It further explained the connection between these guys, and I wasn't completely up to speed on it. So again, I sort of needed this on their reboot. I now know more about their history and better understand why this feud exists, which is good because when their issues started, they introduced these guys in the middle of some of the Pure Tournament episodes. I really didn't know what was going on. They were just inserting basically quick violent scenes between the two. So we sort of got that they have some bitter feud, but I really wasn't aware of the history. So this was helpful to me. So then we go right into the match, which is Mike Bennett versus Vincent in a grudge match. So lots of talking between the two to start. The empty arena allows for you to hear everything, right?
Right, or like you said, in WWE, miking the ring, right?
Yeah, so
or
that you can sort of incorporate this. You have a chance to do some different stuff, so why not try? The only thing I really noticed was Vincent hits a really nice cutter at one point on the apron. He kind of pulls Bennett through between the top and middle rope and then hits a cutter as he's dragging him through. So the match ends in a DQ as Vincent won't stop striking Bennett despite Bennett being in the ropes. Vincent continues the attack outside the ring, but Taven comes to the rescue and Bateman then eventually gets involved too. So it's like NXT. We got everybody running down at the end of the match. So this was fine, but I didn't feel like the overly intense that I'm supposed to feel, considering this was billed as a grudge match, right? Like a grudge match, I have certain expectations, and I didn't get it from this.
Feels like WWE where they bill it as a grudge match, but it never feels like what it's supposed to be.
Especially because the main event last week, now that felt like a grudge match, even
what
though
was that again? Sorry,
that was King and Taylor.
Right.
That match was awesome and seemed way more brutal and hard hitting than this, and that was. They don't have this long storied history with years and years of bitterness, right? So it sort of missed the mark there for me. The match slowed down near the end with the long guillotine and both men down for a while. I thought Vincent looked better than Bennett, as Bennett's offense was pretty basic. I just wasn't getting the bitter hatred between these three that I'm supposed to, so it was not the best for me. We then get a promo for the Foundation with the focus on Rhett Titus being ignored and overlooked for his entire ROH career. This is
Lethal and Gresham's group, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And Hot Sauce Williams and Rhett Titus now.
Right.
So Lethal and Gresham summarize Titus's underutilization and yell, "You are the Foundation" on either side of Titus as he wears the octopus mask. The package ends with Titus with the mask off saying, "I am the Foundation." I didn't really do it justice. It actually was pretty cool. I liked it quite a bit. It looked good and the message was simple. The Foundation appreciates Titus's talents and wrestling ability, and that ROH has sort of ignored him for too long, and that's sort of their motivation, right? Is to bring this style back, and that people who the actual wrestlers in the company have been ignored too long, and we need to focus on the people that can really wrestle, which I would agree with in most companies. Mark Briscoe announces that his new tag team partner is, did you hear this? PCO.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that the two craziest wrestlers in the history of ROH are a team and are coming after the tag team championships. And this was really, really short. And I think PCO jumped out from behind a Christmas decorations or a curtain or something. Anyways, he was sort of already there and he just sort of popped out. So that was kind of cool to see him. We returned from commercials with a promo package with Tracy Hot Sauce Williams. He did not meet his goal in the Pure tournament, and he knew it would be Gresham in the finals. Instead of winning, he formed a bond with Gresham, and they decided to work together to bring Pure Wrestling to the forefront of ROH. Williams feels that John Walters is left out when people talk about ROH all-time greats. He then talks about how great Walters is and compares him to himself. His goal is to finish John Walters before the time limit and plans to use a face lock to win it. So he's sort of announcing what his finishing move will be for the match, which I think is kind of interesting. And Walters was a former Pure champion when it was a big deal in ROH back in the early 2000s, I guess it was. I must have not been paying attention at that point because I have never heard of this guy, and apparently he did quite a lot in ROH.
Interesting.
Walters is a name that Williams would prove himself against as he works to purify ROH. I like that little line that they're going to purify ROH, right, because of the Pure Championship. So another very solid promo for Williams. I personally needed this recap of Walters because, again, I've literally never heard of him. So a helpful promo style again. Thanks, ROH. Filling in the gaps for me.
Nice.
As in the style, John Walters then gets a video package dedicated to him. And it was good. It just sort of caught us up on all of his credentials and things. And I don't know how long he's going to be in ROH, so I didn't pay much attention to it. John Walters versus Tracy Williams in a Pure Rules match. Flip Gordon joins the commentary team, and we learn that he was left out of the Pure tournament and has complained to management and will face Josh Woods in a Pure match next week, and then will face Gresham at Final Battle for the Pure Championship. So sort of out of nowhere, Flip Gordon, he's pretty cool, actually. I don't know how much you've seen him.
He is one of the few Ring of Honor stars that I know.
Yeah, and he's pretty fun to watch
I remember
wrestle.
he won the Over the Budget Battle Royal at All In.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot that. Yeah, he's pretty fun to watch, so I'm okay with him being introduced back into the show.
I remember he was being managed by Brandy Rhodes at that for some reason.
That's right.
I don't know why.
Good old Brandy Rhodes. She's done a lot of things considering they've only been running for about a year, right? So Walters uses all of his rope breaks by the 10-minute mark, which is sort of the story of this match. In the Pure matches, you only get 3, so he's used them all by 10 minutes. Williams wins with a discus clothesline and a pile driver in just under 12 minutes. This match was okay. Having never heard of Walters, it was tough to see him in the main event, right? I mean, I don't know who he is, and he's in the main event of the show. I didn't find this match very interesting, but I can't say that it was bad either. Overall, this was definitely not my favorite episode of ROH. One match ended in a DQ and was clearly just to build to a pay-per-view match, and the other match involved a returning star I'd somehow never heard of, and he lost in only a decent match. So the promos and video packages, as always, were good, but I felt the show was lacking in ring, so I'm going to give it a C+ this week, a little better than NXT. Oof. But I gave it an A last week, right? And so my fear with ROH is that it's going to be really hit and miss going forward, because each episode's like, what do I always say, like 50 minutes, right? So they only have 2 matches each week. So if the wrestlers involved in those matches, they get 90% of the attention on the episode because they're getting a promo package, right? And they're getting a match. So it's really going to depend for me, I think, on which stars are being highlighted each week. If it's people and storylines that interest me, then I'm probably going to like the show. But there's bound to be weeks where they're focusing on...
Right, and that may be good because you'll like it sometimes. But, like, if you're making a good wrestling show, you want people to like it all the time, right? You don't want it to be hit or miss. Like, that's good, but it's not like exactly what you should be shooting for.
And because I'm sure they think all their storylines are good, obviously, right? But the fact is, there's only really 2 storylines included on each episode. So if I don't like one of those, or the characters in one of those,
you basically don't like half of the show.
That's half the show gone. So I feel like going forward, it's going to be a lot of, I really like this show, I didn't really love this show, but that's okay. We'll see how it goes. And so I put here, and again, this is going to have to change, the Final Battle card, which is on December 18th. So it's going to have to change
one of their big ones, no?
Due to COVID restrictions. It is one of their big ones, yes.
Okay, because I just recognized the name, so.
So EC3 versus Jay Briscoe, obviously that's gone and going to have to change because EC3's out. Taylor Promotions versus Mexi Squad and a 6-man.
Taylor Promotions? What?
Shane Taylor Promotions.
Oh.
So it's him and the SOS.
I don't know who that is. But...
I forget. Oh my goodness.
Sons of Savagery.
There you go. And I kind of think they're interesting. So
how did I know that?
That could be okay. Remember. That's for the 6-man tag championships.
Oh, really?
PCO and Jay Briscoe versus Gresham and Lethal for the tag team championships. Vincent and Bateman versus Taven and Bennett. Flip Gordon and Jonathan Gresham for the Pure Wrestling Championship, and Brody King versus Roosh, which I'm actually interested in.
That actually doesn't seem like a terrible card.
It's not. I mean, it's going to have to change slightly, but yeah, it doesn't sound too bad.
And it'll be empty arena. But if you're watching it, I might check it out.
I might check it out. We'll see if I can.
If you're watching, I might peek by.
I will let you know.
All right.
All right, so let's move into Impact Wrestling, which I had high hopes for. Because we did know that they were bringing Omega, so I kept saying last week, if they're smart, they'll obviously plan a big show to have. They're gonna have eyes. They're gonna have eyes on their show that aren't normally on their show. So it would behoove them to put together a really good show. But then I learned something later. But I'll review the show as if I didn't know that. So here we go. The show starts with a detailed recap of Omega's win on Dynamite, and then shots of the luxury bus that he's brought outside the arena. And it feels really strange. There is a complete focus on a competing company to begin a show. So it's not, I'm not saying it was bad. It's just a very odd feeling. Like, this is Impact Wrestling, and 100% of the opening segment is another company's champion, right? So it was a weird feeling.
But I mean, if you're going up against WWE, you want all the help you can get.
Absolutely. The show starts with a match that I'm interested in, Josh Alexander versus Chris Sabin. But as soon as I saw this matchup and the look on Paige's face, because he was sort of certain facial expressions he was giving, and I promise you I'm not just saying this after the fact, I knew exactly the outcome of this match as soon as I saw them enter the ring. But again, that doesn't make it bad, right?
Why? What happened?
Predictable isn't bad. We'll get to it. Well, you know what's been going on with the Paige and Alexander storyline. So guess what's going to happen with Alexander?
Paige cost him.
There you go. Right?
Like, and, on purpose?
And no, there was something about his entrance that you could just see it coming a mile away. So Sabin wins what was actually a pretty entertaining match, right? Because you've got Alexander, who's just this walking weapon, right? And he... a very good wrestler, but a lot more power. Sabin's more the quickness and things like that. So it was a pretty good match. Eventually, Alexander is distracted by Paige shouting instructions at him. Alexander yells that he knows what he's doing and then gets pinned by a jackknife cover. So the one spot I thought was really cool. I don't know if I just haven't seen him do it before, but Alexander did a power bomb, but onto his own knee, which looked awesome. It looked like it would really hurt, to be honest. So I just made a note of that. It looked cool. I thought this was a good match, even though the finish was obvious, right? As soon as I saw the setup, I knew exactly what was happening. But again, that's not always a bad thing. It furthers the story of Paige and Alexander drifting apart, which is too bad because they're the one team that I would love to see get mixed up in some AEW tag matches, right? Like if I could pick one act from Impact to get involved in AEW, it would probably be the North, just because the tag division in AEW, right, is so stacked. It'd be a few almost dream matches for me, because the North, if you haven't seen them, listeners, the North are fantastic.
And their theme's kind of dope.
It's too bad that it looks like they might be splitting, although who knows,
just
maybe it's a red herring.
It's a possibility. I don't think it's gonna happen because obviously, I think it's just Callis being them thanking Callis. Sorry, I can't speak.
Yeah.
Being like, thank you for coming. Blah blah blah.
Well, it looks like if we're gonna get anything, we're getting the Good Brothers going over, right? Which obviously I don't love the Good Brothers, but I think
Carl Anderson could be good there.
I honestly think when they're motivated, they're still really good, because there was that pay-per-view match, right, where I was like, even Gallows was moving around awesome and he looked really good. I just think they're sort of like, he is kind of Kevin Nash. He's like, he just kind of cruises until he really needs to kick it into gear for a big match, which isn't a huge compliment. Well, even in the way he talks and his attitude, he reminds me of Diesel quite a bit these days.
Yeah, especially because you're comparing them to the Outsiders. So.
Right. Josh and Madison talk and summarize the AEW action while a replay shows again. Josh gets the first interview and will speak with Omega and Callis on the luxury bus tonight. We then get Chris Bay approaching Moose backstage to talk about a game plan since they'll be partners tonight. Moose completely ignores Bay and eventually says that he talks with his fists. So if Bay is sure he wants to talk, like the implication is, my fists do the talking. If you keep insisting you want to talk to me, it's going to be fists, right? Which was kind of a subtle, menacing thing I liked. Bay says that Moose should be a little nicer to him since Bay will win the championship on Saturday and Moose will want to talk to him then. So I like this interaction. Moose is continuing with his intense but like subdued character. And Bay, I'm really glad, wasn't afraid, right? He's not playing like I'm afraid of Moose. And he delivered his lines really well. I like this combination in general. You've got one quiet, calm, but menacing character combined with the mouthy, cocky Chris Bay, right? I think they should use these two together for a while longer if they're smart about it, because I find them interesting together. Just the contrast in there. We then get a weird, did you see this? The paid announcement from Tony Khan with Tony Schiavone there. Mm-hmm. So the backdrop and the font on the screen, I think they're intentionally going for a really retro look here.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Khan could stop Kenny from appearing on Impact if he wanted to, but instead he paid for time on the show because he thinks it's good for business. The way Kenny won the belt was a joke and was disgraceful. He highlights highlights of the match play for the third time in 18 minutes for the record on this show as Khan speaks. Khan invites Callis to come to Dynamite as he promotes the show. He then mentions how he's heard Impact has some tag teams, right? So he almost kind of makes an implication here. Khan reminds Shivani that he was in TNA before, and Shivani says for one day, and then he quit the business for 18 years, which I thought was a pretty funny line that was sort of just thrown in there. I thought this was fine. I'm not quite sure. I don't love Tony Khan being on screen for this long. I like the way the AEW has handled him. He's just sort of visible when they run backstage kind of thing. Because we've seen...
He's always, like, mentioned, but, like... Which I think is fine.
There's been too much history of, like, authority figures taking up a whole lot of camera time, so I'm hoping this is not a regular thing. I think
he's just representing them as, like, the main guy.
Yeah, this was fine. It's the most we've seen him on screen, and I think he did an okay job. And this show has been more AEW than Impact at this point so far. We're like 20-something minutes in, and it's been mostly...
Because I like AEW, but like bad because it's not actually Impact.
Right. So then we get Brian Myers versus TJP. So not only does Impact allow their wrestlers on Cameo, but they promote the heck out of it on this show, right? So I'm wondering if this will ever matter when wrestlers are free agents, right? Like this could be one of Impact's selling points is that, listen, you can make all the money you want on third-party sites, and we're not going to take a dime of it. So that may actually help them in some areas with free agents, I'm thinking. Because not only are they okay with you, but they'll promote Cameo on the show. And
right, I think it's another money spot for wrestlers, right? So.
Yep, absolutely. I think Myers does really good heel work, and that they should move him up the card or find something to do with him, because he does seem like a little bit more of a big deal than some of their other talent. He ends up winning this match with a spine buster, and his finishing, what's his devastating finishing move? Do you remember?
No.
A clothesline.
Oh, yeah.
Clothesline for the win after shoving the ref onto TJP to break a hold, which I thought was an interesting non-DQ. He literally just shoves the ref onto TJP, but that's fine, I guess. This was actually a decent TV match that gets Myers a needed win. Doesn't hurt TJP as he's just the guy that's good in ring, so he makes other people look good. If only TJP had any charisma or character at all, because the man can move around the ring. Undoubtedly, he just isn't interesting. He has like anti-charisma for me. Cody Deaner is backstage, and Cousin Jake asks if he's ready for his match with Eric Young. Jake says, "We got this," similar to last week, and Cody says it ain't about we, it's about him. He has to go out there alone. Jake says Joe Doring will be there, so at least let him be there as backup. Cody says Jake can come out, but he has to promise him that no matter what, he won't get involved. Jake promises reluctantly, and Cody walks off with Jake following. This is mostly a repeat of last week's segment between the two, but I think Cody is doing a really good job in a more serious, like away from that WrestleHouse nonsense angle, and I'm not sure why he feels he has to do it himself when he's been attacked by both of them, right? Like Young and Doring are a package deal. I'm not quite getting why it's like I have to do this myself, but anyways, at least he's out of WrestleHouse and being serious. It's great to see people like Crazy Steve and the Deaners get away from WrestleHouse and Who Shot Johnny Bravo nonsense and back into more serious stuff like this. And I would imagine, if I had to guess, that the wrestlers are happy about it too, right? Like, yes, I'm getting into something a little more serious now. TJP is looking frustrated backstage when Rohit shows up to mock him over his loss. He says TJP isn't doing that well. He tried to stand up to Myers, and look what happened. He tried to pull his game with Suicide / Crazy Steve, and that didn't work. 2020 isn't his year, but it is Rohit's. He says he's the greatest X Division champion in this lifetime. He puts over the final Defeat Rohit challenge of 2020 at Final Resolution, which will be open to anybody but TJP again. He says maybe 2020 will be his year, but he doubts it. TJP says that for the final Defeat Rohit challenge, good luck. This is continued strong character work and delivery by Rohit. But what did you think I was going to say, right? Like, I pretty much think Rohit is one of the highlights of this show all the time. I feel like he's even getting more confident and stronger on his promos. I think this guy is pretty terrific. TJP was fine because he only had one line to deliver here. It sounds like TJP may have some sort of plans for Rohit going forward at Final Resolution, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see if he is somehow involved in the Defeat Rohit challenge, the final one of 2020. Then we do move into the Eric Young versus Cody Deaner match, and Cousin Jake is there as well as Joe Doring, obviously. I'm not a big fan of the now more serious Cody Deaner, which I do like that serious character, but it seems weird to me that he's still walking to the ring with a beer in his hand, right? So there's a bit of a disconnect with how seriously he said he's taking this match, but clearly he's drinking before and on his way to the match, which doesn't seem to make sense to me. Deaner climbs the ropes closest to Doring for some reason, and as Doring moves closer, so does cousin Jake from the other side. So like Jake is there to support him, but is really still trying not to get involved as he promised. Cody reminds Jake not to get involved, but that brief interaction obviously allows EY to avoid Deaner's top rope diving headbutt, and Young hits his piledriver for the win. After the match, Jake tries to attack Doring, but he gets slammed and clotheslined. Rhino runs in for the save with a lead pipe as Eric Young and Doring are about to continue the attack on the Deaners. This was a very short match with a predictable outcome. It was fine, but I feel like this isn't over between these four. A prolonged feud with the Deaners, if this is what is happening, does not make Eric Young and Joe Doring feel like a main event act, but maybe that's not the plan for them. EY, I kind of feel like it was like, yeah, EY got his title run, right? And now he's back to helping others look good, I guess. Maybe it was the promise of, yeah, if you sign with us and come back here, we'll give you a nice title run. And then now he's just kind of moving back down the card to help some other people, which he's really good at, right? Like Eric Young is a really strong all-around talent. So if he can help some of the younger lower card people, then I guess that's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about Cody Deaner's entrance with like he's saying he's serious, but then he's like
drinking it,
not his entrance. It reminds me of honestly of Breezango.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Like super serious. Not really.
Right.
Backstage, Johnny Bravo is yelling at Dreamer about Lawrence D having shot him. He complains that he got shot, and Mr. Mundo, which is the stuffed dog, I didn't know that was the dog's name, but I guess it is.
Oh, when you say Mr. Mundo, I think Johnny Mundo.
I think that's the reference, probably. So Mr. Mundo got hit with the shrapnel. Dreamer tells him to calm down and worry about his and Mr. Mundo's health. He says he's got this and wields a kendo stick as he approaches Triple XL. He tells Larry he shouldn't be a free man and doesn't care that he was set up. Larry wants a match with Dreamer at Final Resolution with his freedom on the line. So the stipulation is his freedom. Dreamer says that the match is made, and Larry actually says, he points out he's like making fun of the angle he's in. You mean to tell me that I can win my freedom from attempted murder in a wrestling match? Dreamer says that he can do whatever the hell he wants. So this continues to be ridiculous.
Didn't it say it was like an old school rules match?
It is, yes.
I don't even know what that means.
We'll find out, I guess. I'm sure it's just another way for Extreme Rules, or whatever. Even the characters involved in this are pointing out that it's silly and not in like a funny, like, haha, we get the joke way. You can escape conviction for a major crime by winning a wrestling match is what we're learning. Amazing. Let's move on. Scott D'Amore is in his office and Dreamer walks in concerned about what's going on. So is Scott, who just saw the match being made. He hates wrestlers making matches, so then don't let them. Anyways, but it's not going to ruin his day. He's fine with it. Dreamer is concerned about Kenny and Dawn being there. He's concerned about what it does to the locker room and says Dawn's only in it for himself. It only blows up. Scott says he's already blowing up, but in a good way, and he gets it. But he's not the first one to be in for himself. He notes that even Lance Storm is happy, and he's never happy. He says it's a good thing, but Dreamer isn't convinced. If this gets Dreamer away from the comedy stuff he's been doing lately, then I'm all for it, because this was him just being a normal person and talking to D'Amore, and D'Amore was less obnoxious here too. So I'm okay with the segment in general, I guess, and I think maybe D'Amore is less obnoxious with baby faces, I think is the pattern we're seeing, so we'll get more obnoxious.
Then he doesn't have to be all snarky and
We'll get obnoxious D'Amore back later, don't worry. We get a Knockouts Tag Team Tournament first round match, the last one in the first round, we're told. Deonna Purrazzo and Kimber Lee versus Taya and Rosemary, and my first note is this should be a good match because all four of these ladies can go. Taya is isolated with quick tags between Lee and Purrazzo. We get an eventual hot tag to Rosemary, who cleans house. A couple awkward double team moves by Purrazzo and Lee during this match. I'm not going to lie, and sometimes Kimber Lee has some awkward stuff. She's not my favorite of these four, but I don't think she's bad either. Taya and Lee fight while holding splits at one point. They're both in a full splits in the ring punching each other, which I don't think I've seen before. Rosemary hits her double underhook finisher, because I don't know what to call it, on Lee for the win after a miscommunication between Lee and Purrazzo. This was a fine match. a lot of their women's matches are better than this. It was really short, and the outcome is what I expected since Lee and Purrazzo already have a current storyline going with Su Yung and James Mitchell, so I didn't really think they were going to win and sort of go further in this tournament.
And Purrazzo's the champion.
Right, she's got other things to do, so it gets them out of the tournament so they can go back to doing whatever they're doing with James Mitchell. Then Alicia Edwards is backstage with Tenille and Caleb with a K. Tenille suggests a couple names for their new faction, and obviously prefers the one that features her name. I forget what they were, but one of the options was Tenille and the whatevers, I think it was. So she likes that one, obviously. But Alicia says she doesn't have time for this, and they're sort of insulted by her not having time for them, obviously, right? She says that Tenille and Caleb are not her real fans since they've done nothing to help her deal with Sami Callihan. Tenille says she doesn't have time for her. Like, you don't have time for us? Well, we don't have time for you. And they kick her out of the team already. They promise to teach her a lesson, but it'll have to happen later. So I guess this affiliation is already over. And I actually thought it was a little promising. I like the idea of like naive doormat Alicia Edwards dealing with like arrogant Dashwood who would for sure have no problem taking advantage of her, right?
Right.
So it seems like that's over. It doesn't mean they can't continue it somehow, but it looks like that alliance is sort of over already. Dashwood and Caleb need to get involved in something substantial soon, I feel like. They sort of just keep bouncing from one brief storyline to another. Like, they're not quite sure what to do with either one of them yet. So I feel like they need to get in something a little more focused, but maybe this is what it is. We'll see. Back from the break, and Deonna and Kimbo are arguing about their loss. They come up on Scott D'Amore, and Purrazzo complains about having to deal with an undead zombie in Su Yung along with everything else. D'Amore says it looks like they've taken care of Su for now, and since they lost their tournament match, she can focus on the Knockouts Championship. That's what I was thinking for sure. He knows it's eating away at her, so this Saturday she'll prove herself by defending the Knockouts Championship against Rosemary. Just kind of pulled out of thin air a little bit, right? I guess not, because they just had this match and lost to them, so it's now going to be a one-on-one. She can get her revenge, I guess is the idea, but it's a really quick build to a pay-per-view championship match, I thought. D'Amore walks off after throwing his papers in the air, and Purrazzo and Lee are incredulous that she has to face another demon. Just fighting demons all the time, you know?
Yeah, your average pro wrestling.
That's it. D'Amore was back to being his sarcastic, obnoxious jerk, again, maybe because these are heels, right? And this is how you build a Knockouts Championship match, by announcing it out of thin air, kind of, a few days before the pay-per-view. This is a very strong division, and they should be able to book the title scene a bit better than this. Sami Callihan is in the ring with a microphone. He says he's the best in the ring, best on the mic, and a must-see wrestler on this planet. The most must-see wrestler on the planet. Since day one, he's held Impact on his back and dug it out of the trenches to make it the company it is today. He says Impact needs him more than he needs Impact, and that's how he gets away with what he does. He talks about the famous baseball bat to Eddie as a mainstream moment. Sami says Eddie doesn't learn and keeps sticking his nose into Sami's business and getting beaten for it, which will continue happening until Eddie's forced out of the business. So he said, "What the hell, let's do this again," and he hit Eddie with the bat. He says the incident got Shamrock suspended, but Ken's great and getting a vacation while Sami holds things down. He calls it the sequel, but no clip is airing as he calls for it to be played. Instead, Alicia's music plays and out she comes. Sami tells her to stop because he's not in the best mood. What does she want to do, fight Sami? She almost got pile-driven by Eric Young last time, but EY has better manners than him, and if she steps in the ring, he'll break her neck. Alicia says, unlike last time, she didn't come alone, and here's, surprise, Eddie Edwards from behind. He attacks Sami and lays in punches. Sami goes for the bat, but Eddie stops him and steps on Sami's arm. He grabs the bat, and Sami sort of backs off a bit here. Eddie swings, but Sami ducks and gets out of the ring and sort of disappears. I'm not interested in this feud. Impact seems to think that the bat attack the first time was some sort of iconic event in their history.
It was cool, but that's because it was like real.
Because a guy really got hit in the head and almost killed with a baseball bat. And they're like, let's live off of this moment now, which I find a bit bizarre. I don't really care about this. I think Alicia actually has been doing a pretty decent job, and I'm pretty critical of her sometimes. So I think that she's doing an okay job, but I don't care about Sami right now. I do like him, but I don't know. The Sami and Eddie Edwards thing was done and gone, and we're back to it. So I'm not thrilled. Back from the break, and Eddie's excited, saying he's back. Alicia talks him down and says she helped him. Now it's time for him to help her. He's all for it and walks off fired up. So we get Moose and Chris Bay now versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack. And I thought this should be a really good main event. I like all four of these guys in different ways, sort of things. Moose power bombs Bay into Mack without Bay's consent, which was cool, right? He just sort of grabs his tag partner and power bombs him on one of their opponents. And you could see Bay's facial expressions are pretty good. He was not happy with this. The finish comes when Bay takes the pop-up forearm from Mack, which looks really cool. Moose hits his spear on Mack, and Bay gets the pin on Moose. This was actually a really fun match with some fast-paced action. The right team won, and the right person took the pin, in my opinion. Willie Mack's the one that has to get pinned here. I really like the dynamic between Chris Bay and Moose, and I hope that they continue it and drag it out, and that these guys continue to like interact and work together, but not really like each other. I kind of like the dynamic they have going. Back from the break, and Swann is preparing to leave the building, but security says the champion has the parking lot blocked off. Swann thinks he means Moose pretending to be the champion with the TNA World title, but it's Kenny Omega. Josh shows up and is let through as Swann walks off annoyed. Think about this. Let me just paint this picture for you, Jackson. The champion of Impact Wrestling is Rich Swann. He goes to leave the building, and he's told he can't because the champion has the parking lot blocked off. So the champion of Impact can't leave because he's not on the list.
Because the champion of AEW is.
But the commentator shows up and is let through right away. So like this makes Rich Swann, I think, look really weak, right? Like,
and it's not even the champion of their promotion
that's blocking it off. That Swann is the champion. It makes Josh Matthews look better than Swann, does it not? Because he's allowed to go into this restricted area, and the champion is not. And the reason the champion's given is because the champion has the parking lot closed. So I think Swann, this has been a super not disappointing title run, because I didn't have much expectation and didn't think he should be the champion, but he's proving me right, in my opinion, so far, which is always nice, but not great for Rich Swann. So Matthews walks into the empty bus and doesn't see anyone. He takes a seat, and out come Callis and Omega. Omega has the AEW World title. Callis asks if he wants to see history and says that the ceremonial changing of the nameplate will happen here instead of on AEW television. Kenny wanted to give a gift to the Impact audience here, and Callis starts to do it while Matthews asks about Callis getting involved in the match on Dynamite. So I do have quite a bit of details here. Sorry, buddy. You ready? Because people, I think, might care about this and might be listening for a summary, so it's pretty in-depth. He asks how long this has been in the works, and Callis is more interested first in changing the nameplate. Omega points out that Matthews was close with Ambrose in Tough Enough Season 1, so they toss him the nameplate, which I thought was a cute little touch, right? Hey, here's
did he say Ambrose?
A buddy of yours, I'm tearing his nameplate off, yeah. And they say they don't need it.
That's not nice.
Callis says that they think in years, and this started 27 years ago when AEW didn't even exist, for the record, so I found that kind of weird, but anyways, we'll ignore it. When he was trained as a wrestler by the Golden Sheik. They get a picture of Callis with the Sheik, who is Kenny's uncle. Callis says the Sheik took care of him and introduced him to Kenny when Kenny was 10. Callis says he's looked after Kenny like the Sheik looked after him. He says he's always been the invisible hand in Kenny's life, and asked if Josh really thinks he got back into wrestling 5 years ago to do a podcast. Did we honestly think he came back out of a business career
He came back to give Kenny Omega the world title of a promotion that didn't exist.
That's right. Did we honestly think he came back out of a business career to become a color commentator for New Japan? It was all part of the plan for him to be next to Kenny when he won the IWGP Heavyweight title. It was all part of the plan for him to come to Impact, and all part of the plan when Tony Khan invited him to his home and offered him at Kenny's request to call Kenny's match in the title eliminator tournament. And he was such a nice guy that Tony invited him to call the title match. He says he and Kenny are family, and most people in wrestling don't understand that. He says they change history and have done it twice. First, when Callis booked Omega against Jericho in the Tokyo Dome, which Tony Khan himself has said gave birth to the idea for AEW.
I thought that was All In, but okay.
Omega points... Hey, heel logic, man. Don't question it.
Okay.
Omega points out that Tony said that a lot of times and says a lot of people take credit for what they accomplished. Callis says that AEW fans are welcome because they made it happen. Callis says some people change history once, but nobody does it twice, and that's what they did.
That's not true.
And he says it's being called the golden screw job and the biggest screw job in wrestling since Montreal.
I don't think anybody has called it that. And also the Montreal Screwjob wasn't staged.
Heel logic, all right? Why you got problems with Callis? Callis doesn't see it that way. He sees it as setting the course of history right, because now we have what we always wanted. The greatest wrestler in history is our AEW World Champion.
I didn't always want it. I wanted Hangman. That's what I always wanted.
They did it together, which is what makes it the most special. Some people make matches. Some people like to make memories. They make history, which I thought was a
I'd
cool
like to
line.
say I literally always wanted Hangman to be the AEW champion, literally ever since he won the Casino Battle Royal.
So I guess Callis is not talking to you.
I'm just saying.
Josh then asks, with all that said, does Kenny feel what happened Wednesday tarnishes his legacy? Callis flips out at that question, and Omega asks him to repeat it. Josh breaks it down, and Callis getting involved while Callis stares at him. Omega wants to role reverse and be the interviewer. He asks Josh if he has a father or a father figure.
This part I actually remembered, and I thought this part was really good, actually.
Me too. I actually talk about this at the end. I like this part a lot too. He asks Josh if he has a father or father figure, and what would happen if someone you hated or despised laid their hands on that person and struck him down before his eyes. So again, good sound heel logic here, right?
But like Mox did hit him, right?
Yep.
So.
Would he hit him back or hit them back and use an object laying at his feet to do so? He thinks he would. He acknowledges that he placed a gentleman's agreement on the match and tried to follow it, but when you lay your hands on the architect, what do you expect him to do? He says he's a little annoyed at Matthews and says it's just like him to have his arrogance considering where he came from, which I think is a shot at WWE, right?
I agree.
Does he feel like he tarnished his legacy? No. Everyone wanted and needed him to be champion. He's had the greatest matches of all time regardless of style. He's in about 17 of the top 20 AEW matches, the top matches in Mexico, Japan, UK, Zimbabwe, you name it. So with him coming to Impact, Josh should start treating him better. Omega says he's getting irritated, and he will ask the question Josh wants to know. Why Impact? He says it's because they can. They like to ride and live in style, and says he feels like the old him. But why Impact? He says as a child, he fancied himself a collector and collected comics. He had to quit because no matter how much he spent, how many rare books he collected, he could never get the rarest ones. Now he has a new hobby, and he has the most valuable prize of them all, the Actions comic #1, and he doesn't mind if he adds X-Men #1, the AAA title, to his collection, or Spider-Man #1, maybe that's the Impact Championship. He says that they have a great champion here. He likes the lifestyle wrestling affords him, and as long as he has the AEW title, he doesn't mind having fun in his spare time. Who knows? But for now, they're close to a big announcement at AEW and have to go to Jacksonville. Kenny says, if you thought the Lex Express was riding in style, I've got something even better planned for tomorrow. Callis asks for a tease, and he gives a clue. Lex Luger, the bus. What else did Lex have? Callis asks
a count-out win over Yokozuna
no,
with a big old American celebration.
I don't think Yokozuna's coming back. I'm pretty sure.
I'm just saying maybe Kenny Omega gets a big old count-out win over a sumo wrestler and then celebrates with balloons and confetti with half the locker room.
Well, let's just say if that does happen, we were the first to predict it here on this show. Callis asks Omega to do the thing, and Omega says hopefully...
Do you say Mobega?
I don't know. We didn't think he'd wrestle tonight, but it's the first time he's done the thing on TV in a long time. He asks if they're ready for it, and he does his I must bid adieu, goodbye, good night, bang. Callis said they should get out of here, and they get up to go. Omega says he's not a bad guy, and Callis calls him a stooge as they leave and go to black.
He calls Kenny a stooge?
They were referring to Josh Matthews there. I thought this was really good. I liked that they never left the bus. I thought Callis was really good. I love this Omega heel character. I would like some clarification on how this is a 27-year-old...
I like this much better than the AEW one.
I'd like clarification on how this is a 27-year plan, considering these companies didn't exist at that time. But anyways, maybe it's just heel hyperbole, right? I like Omega's logic about defending...
Like maybe they were plotting to give Kenny the world title. Maybe
yes.
It just happens to be AEW.
Or to take over every major promotion that exists.
Maybe that's just what they're saying then.
I like Omega's logic about defending his father figure, like we talked about, who's been attacked. Which is what he feels happened, right? His family was attacked and he responded. So that's heel logic 101 right there. I also liked his discussion of being a collector, right? This is a relatable thing for people, including you. You tend to be a collector of things. So, like, he's disappointed in his comic book collection because he can never get the rarest ones, but he's already got the most desirable wrestling championships. So
and that's putting over the AEW title, right?
It is.
Opposite of, like, maybe Vince Russo saying, oh, it's just like a toy, and, like, he gave himself the title, gave it to David Arquette, and blah, 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 vacated them, stuff.
So now he's, like, tapping his collector tendencies into something new, and he's already got the most prized possessions.
And then he's also got, like, he's also putting over Triple A's title, and, like, saying, oh, maybe I'll take your guy's title too.
Yep, and comparing them to, like, important comic books from history. Not that I'm up on that, but I kind of like this idea. I have collecting tendencies, and I'm starting with the best thing
and I put that into pro wrestling.
Right, because my last collection was disappointing because I couldn't get the best thing, so I'm starting with the best thing.
Right.
So I like that. I didn't get the Luger reference. Maybe that's
the Lex Express, remember?
Because I've seen Dynamite. I know the bus, but then he's saying, what else did Lex have, right? Like,
a count-out win over a big sumo wrestler with a big celebration.
Right. So overall, this was not a bad episode of Impact. I'm going to read my overall thoughts like I had them and then explain how a piece of information changed everything for me. So this wasn't a bad episode of Impact, but it doesn't seem like they planned anything unique or exciting in anticipation of more eyes being on the product. And here's what I learned. They didn't, because this episode was recorded in late November, right? So it was already done, and it was just sort of...
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why the entire segment was them on a bus, right? They couldn't come into the facility because this was recorded a month ago or whatever. So that's why it was all self-contained in the bus, and they just added that in, right?
That's weird.
So I don't know if it was impossible for them to change it or add stuff to the show. So it literally was just a regular episode of Impact with this AEW stuff added sort of after the fact.
Whoever's watching like the James Mitchell and the Who Shot Johnny Bravo thing's gonna be hella confused.
Right. So again, it felt like a standard episode of Impact, and it was, as I found out later, so my instincts were pretty good. The matches were fine, with nothing really standing out except maybe the main event, which I enjoyed. There was very little Who Shot Johnny Bravo, which is always a plus. So the Omega Callis segment I thought was really good, especially Callis, but Omega was a lot stronger in this one than he was on AEW, I thought. So I gave this show a B overall. Again, like, it wasn't bad, but there's nothing other than this.
Nothing like super...
I would say the main event match and this final segment are worth watching, and everying else is just kind of stuff.
The quote-unquote main event, like, is on last?
So their final resolution...
Wait, was it?
The main event was... The last thing on the show was the
that's what
Omega Callis.
Okay, yeah. I thought so, but I was just...
Yeah. So the final resolution card, which is today, I guess, technically, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So we're going to get a barn burner. Hernandez versus Falaba with Kira Hogan as guest referee.
That's
and
so bad.
Tasha Steelz as the guest ring announcer. Eric Young versus...
Okay, why would you... What does the guest ring announcer matter?
They're just to get her involved, I guess.
It's like, because I remember the one thing, I think it was Austin versus Dude Love. McMahon was the referee, and one of either Gerald Briscoe or Patterson was the
announcer,
timekeeper or whatever, and then the one's the announcers. Like, how does the announcer give you the advantage? Like, wouldn't you want to make them like ringside enforcer maybe?
Well, they're there in a position where they can quickly interfere is the whole, if they want to. But it's just to get anything getting...
I would say ringside enforcer.
Anything getting Kira Hogan and Tasha Steelz on the screen, I think, is a good move, and they should include them whenever they can, in my opinion. One of my favorite acts on this promotion. Eric Young versus Rhino doesn't really interest me too much. Carl Anderson versus Ethan Page could be a good match for sure. Tennille Dashwood Tennille Dashwood and Caleb versus Alicia and Eddie Edwards. Havoc and Nevaeh versus the Sea Stars. I was not impressed with the Sea Stars, so I do not need to see them again. But maybe they just had an off day that day, so who knows? Your classic old school rules match: Tommy Dreamer and Larry D. Not looking forward to that. Defeat Rohit challenge. We don't know who he'll face. But it seems like TJP is somehow tangled up in that storyline still. Purrazzo, Rosemary, and Rich Swann versus Chris Bay. I'm sure Chris Bay won't win, but he should win. He should win. Chris Bay should win, but I bet you he won't win. Anyways.
Do you think Chris Bay should win?
I think Chris Bay should win. So I don't have anything else in any other wrestling business. If you don't have any nuggets from Raw or SmackDown.
No, I didn't find anything interesting, and or I just forgot to find anything because Raw's dumb.
So I still have my random game, but I think we'll push it another week because we're coming up on
Your
2.5 hours. Remember I had a random game I made and I pushed it last week to this week. I'm going to push it this week to next week.
Why? What is it?
It's just a random game for you to guess things. I don't want to say too much.
Do it.
We'll do it next week.
Aww.
We got time. So that will send us into our final section every week, which is where Jack sort of takes a few minutes to talk about the world of wrestling action figures. So this is Figuring It Out with Jack.
Yes.
Go for it, sir.
So new images for Elite 83, like actual figures, not just the renders anymore. So just a reminder, we got Drew McIntyre, WrestleMania 36. I showed you he has a new head scan that looks amazing. And they made him a little more tan, I think, which also looks much better.
Nice.
So I did show you, right? So it looks much nicer, I think.
Yep.
This is his best head scan to date. So
there's some good ones, and there's
nice.
some bad ones coming up too, I think, right?
Edge, also WrestleMania 36, looks amazing. That head scan's awesome.
Even has some gray in the beard.
Yes, they used the Daniel Bryan torso, though, which I think is a not great choice. If you're an action figure person, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a torso they use for the Seth Rollins one that has more defined abs, which I think would work for him now that he's got such a...
Yeah, he's in good shape.
A much better physique now. Even the picture on the back, it shows like that torso would be perfect for him.
And we all know the coolest people have beards with some gray in it.
If you're an example, I would say no.
No one's ever seen us before, so they don't know.
Yes. Next example, or next, why did I say example? I don't know. Next figure.
Words are hard, man, sometimes.
King Corbin, finally getting a bald Corbin.
Nice.
King Corbin looks nice.
Your favorite wrestler?
It looks nice, actually, so I might get that. Looks pretty good.
Sure.
Got Dusty Rhodes with red polka dots. Got a weird robe entrance accessory, but this is like, I think, WWE Dusty Rhodes because it does have the dumb polka dots.
The rumor is that the polka dots were a joke, eh?
Yeah.
Because Dusty obviously got famous not in WWF, so you must make fun of him when he gets there.
Right. But yeah, it looks alright. It's your average Dusty Rhodes figure. I probably won't get that because I don't really need a Dusty Rhodes. Then we got Sasha Banks with her blue hair, current look.
Right.
The
blueprint.
Literally her same head scan that they've been using as of late with blue hair. So the attire's really nice. I really like it, but I don't like that they just reused the head scan again, because given all the new head scans they've been doing, like the ones I was just talking about, that are like really good, this one just looks and it kind of looks like her.
You're
the
gifted
Chase
with
variant
the word,
Edge is from Backlash 2020, greatest match ever.
Yep.
It looks nice, same head scan, same accessories, just different ring gear. Does look very nice. I do like that.
Good.
And then next we got basic 117 revealed. Once again, the actual figure images, packaging, and loose. First we got Heavy Machinery, Otis and Tucker. Otis looks very nice. I believe they created a new body mold for him.
And Tucker
looks awful.
Awful.
His
really bad.
They used the Keith Lee body mold him, which is a not great choice.
Nope.
And then the head scan, if you look really close, it looks more like a bearded Big Show.
It is not a good figure.
Than Tucker.
Not
right?
Their best
Like I was
work.
telling you, it looks like Big Show, honestly.
Well, the body doesn't look like him at all, really.
But right, and just the head scan looks like Big Show, so Tucker's not great. These are their trunks look, so no singlet or anything, which I think we needed for Otis, but Tucker's is really not great. So yeah, that's a thing.
Yep.
And then Roman Reigns,
It is.
another Roman Reigns. They use the same head scan they keep using over and over again. You know what it looks like, right? It's just like I showed you.
Yep.
I think
I saw
it's
it.
just the same one. And I think usually the basics have the bearded one, and then the elite usually has the goatee one. This one has the goatee. It's just the only difference they've used it with this scan is the beard or goatee, and then they have like the man bun head scan, and that's it. And then it's got a blue big dog logo. It looks fine, but it's just your run-of-the-mill Roman Reigns figure. I was really hoping for a Tribal Chief Reigns here, but I guess we'll probably get that in Elite.
Yeah, it'll be coming, I'm sure.
Then we got Toni Storm, first time in the line. Not to be biased, but her figure looks fine. Like, the attire's okay, and the head scan's okay. I didn't show you.
Entrance gear's usually pretty cool.
Yeah, but it's a basic, so you're not going to be getting any of that.
Fair enough.
Hold on, I'll try to pull out my phone so then I can show you easier, but...
Just keep going.
Well, I know I will while I'm going, but... It looks fine, honestly. Like, the head skin's not as bad as the Tegan Knox, let's just say.
Yeah, that one was weak.
The Tegan Knox is
really
pretty
weak.
brutal.
Yeah.
But it's alright. And so her normal one is the blue and black. Like, it's like a steel blue almost.
Yeah.
And it looks like pretty good. Hold on. Can you see that?
Yep, I can see that.
It looks okay.
Oh, not great, but not bad.
Right, it's not terrible, so we'll take it. And then we got like a red attire for her Chase variant. And then, last but not least, is Undertaker. This looks like a re-release from Battle Pack 66 with Roman Reigns. So I think it's Extreme Rules 2019 gear.
Yeah.
It looks fine, but it's one of those ones where they paint over the top, so it's still got the belly button mold.
Skin tight shirt.
Yeah, probably the most skin tight shirt of all time.
Right.
So then we got, what the heck? Sorry, my tab just did a weird thing there. Okay, got my notes back. I don't know what just happened, but
Doesn't matter.
Hold on.
Battle through.
There we go. We got render images revealed for Elite 86 Triple H. The normal version is that purple attire from SummerSlam 1998. And then the Chase version is like red and around the same area. I couldn't find the exact date for the attire, so not sure. But they do look pretty cool, so.
Nice.
Attitude Era kind of Triple H will be getting. I probably won't need it. Although I do kind of want the purple one just because that's a classic ring gear and I think it'd be kind of cool. But another one that's even weirder perhaps is the render image was shown for Elite 85 Kama Mustafa.
The Ultimate Fighting Machine.
Supreme Fighting Machine.
Yep.
The one YouTuber said we've now had him in all three of his personas with also Papa Shango. I don't remember.
He's had a lot of gimmicks, that
Papa
guy.
Shango, but if there is, I want Papa Shango for some reason.
Papa Shango was cool.
We just need the Good Father and then Nation of Domination, Kama. Remember the Good Father right to censor?
Yep.
Then we got packaging images for the ringside exclusive Ultimate Warrior. The attire is based on WrestleMania 12 when he squashed Triple H.
Right.
And then we got a new WWE Reckon playset.
The car.
This is both lame and cool because it is a re-release of the Slam Mobile, but it's back in blue this time, and this time comes with the basic figure of The Rock. And the attire is based on the Friday Night SmackDown premiere last year.
I was going to say, it's the SmackDown car. It's blue.
Yeah. And I do want another car for like parking lot brawls and stuff, so I will try to get this.
Nice.
And I only have one other Rock. But the figure seems to be the same as his basic 107 figure, which is why I mentioned at the beginning of the video, because I was looking at that just to check, and it's the same attire, so I think it's the exact same figure. But this does look pretty good. Like, the car was really well done the first time, so I do kind of want this because I think it'd be useful. So
cool.
It looks pretty cool.
Nice.
That's it.
That's it?
That is everything.
Well, that brings us to the end of episode 21 of our podcast.
And then I get to eat my cookie.
You get to eat a cookie. I got to go make some chili, it looks like.
Yes, you do. I'm going to eat a chili hot dog.
He's going to try his first ever chili cheese hot dog.
I'm a Brent Leroy it.
Off of Corner Gas, a beloved Canadian show if you haven't seen it.
It's probably my favorite TV show.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
good whole entertainment for the whole family.
And we'll be watching National Lampoon.
Christmas Vacation tonight.
Yep.
That's right.
And I'll probably play video games after dinner before that.
So hopefully you guys have as exciting plans as us during this global pandemic where you're just supposed to stay in your house and find stuff to do.
Maybe
that's what we're doing.
Since we're staying home a lot, we'll try to fit in some bonus episodes if we got time. Don't forget, we got our year-end awards coming up, best of and worst of. I have been working hard on those, trying to get some nominees for everything. I've been literally scrolling through AEW and WWE's YouTube channels, just trying to find.
I am afraid I'm gonna have to.
I've just been looking through clips.
I'm gonna have to rewatch some matches, I think, because my memory's not the best.
I'll do that.
So if you make a list of the matches,
I guess I'm working on that. I'm just looking through clips to see if there's anything that triggers my memory.
Fair enough.
And then I'm going from there. So yeah, I'm working hard on that. When we do come out with that, we will let you know. Please do listen to that because I think this should be. I honestly this will be probably the one I'm most excited for.
Good.
There's going to be a lot of stuff probably in there that we talk about that probably haven't been covered on the podcast because we did start kind of mid-year. So
that's true. We started just before your birthday, right? So
yeah, and one of my things for NXT, so I did mention I think it's AEW and NXT categories and then overall.
Right.
I did put Charlotte Flair in an NXT category because she was in NXT a bunch. So just to clear that up. And then there are some main roster things, but like only from pay-per-views, like the cinematches from the pay-per-views. And because we have actually watched them, so we could actually give a fair opinion.
We haven't missed any pay-per-views. We've watched almost no main roster shows, but we try to catch all the
but yeah,
pay-per-views.
so please stay tuned for that. Yep. I'm really excited for it. I think it'll be fun.
And thanks for listening to us on whatever platform. We're pretty much all over the place. I'm not even going to list them anymore because if they carry podcasts, we're probably on there. So feel free to leave us a review or subscribe or like or follow or whatever you need to do. All of that is greatly appreciated. And yeah, you feel free to reach out to us for any reason. Again, fnswrestling@gmail.com and fns_wrestling_podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear from anybody. Any questions, any praise, any criticisms. It's all useful information.
Yeah, and I'm not going to spoil anything yet in case it doesn't come to fruition, but we are working on bringing something new to the podcast.
Easy. You're putting pressure on me to figure things out.
No, I'm saying I'm not going to say anything in case it doesn't happen, but we're just... Dad's testing something out to see if we can bring something new to the podcast, and we'll let you know if it happens.
Always looking to evolve. I criticize wrestling for not evolving, so we gotta try and evolve.
So we gotta follow the mantra, right?
So anyways, long outro. Everybody have a great week, and we will see you back here for episode 22. Be safe, take care,
21.
And we'll see you soon.